I would like to share with you some of what makes Distal special and also go through a little bit of housekeeping and that sort of thing because we're going to be doing some fun stuff, having some giveaways, and also having a guest on later. But, and also, if you're on playthisrpg.com, you all backers will be able to get a free art print on physical editions uh, within the first 48 hours. It's an early bird special thing. So back physical edition, you'll get this art print. It's by Layla Mon, awesome artist. I really really dig what she did for the Temple Grizzly, which is one of the creatures that you can face in the alpha material right now. Uh, number 3 is pretty good. It's pretty good. All right. So what other housekeeping do we have? So giveaways. The way that giveaways will work is I'll call a giveaway, and they're only going to be upgrades of material because the purpose of the backer kit is to fund the development of this particular title. So because of that, we want to make sure that that's well, okay. It's easier for me to support the folks who are already pledging for the project, and what we're going to do is we're going to upgrade whatever pledge you've or whatever tier you've pledged at. And so if you pledge the digital edition, you'll be able to you'll get a hardcover at no additional cost. And then but you have to be in a country that we can deliver to, and you have to also pay for shipping. So if it seems like a good deal, then stick around. We'll call some giveaways. Also, it'll just be fun. It'll just be fun to do little activities together. But oh, hey, Vertu, thank you. Yes, the launch of Distal like coincided with my affiliate birthday, which is fortuitous and really amusing. All right, let's see what else we got going on here. So, aside from that, let's talk about the game itself. So, Distal in particular is the experience that I wanted to create with Distal is something that felt a little bit more grounded, but not gritty. When I think about Lord of the Rings, when I think about actually Lord of the Rings is probably really uh, the most prominent example is that you have people who are they're small people, sometimes powerful people, but they're all taking heroic actions. They are sacrificing of self to to take the ring to Mordor, and like regardless of the stakes, they are working in spite of the odds, not because they know that things are going to go their way. And in modern D20 games, a lot of it is that you're just the hero by default, and that's not an experience that I feel like it's not earned. You know, you go in with full health, you go in with full resources, and you kind of just you just you're expected to succeed. And there's a lot of good reasons for this. First of which is that if you've invested like years, some in some cases campaigns last that long. If you've invested that much time into a character, it's a shame to see it die, unless it dies in a really cool way. But this game, however, tries to take that concept of watching a character grow over time, and we try to make it so you aren't punished when you suffer setbacks, when you suffer trauma, when bad things happen to you. In fact, it acts as fuel for your character to grow. So this grounded, not gritty world, I talk about meaningful stakes a lot. There are some very mechanical ways that we do that, like through the death mark system or um, the fact that you've already had trauma just through your backstories, and the theme of the world lends itself to really hard decisions. And importantly, when you the way that you gain progress in this game is by suffering. Well, okay, suffering is too far. Is by enduring hardship. If you're making the best out of a no-win situation, that counts as a trial. Trials are experiences That's I guess you could they translate to experience points in a way. So the GM, is encouraged to throw hardship at the players so that they can watch their characters blossom over time through that adversity. And that's a concept that's core to Distal. I don't think that we're all the way there yet. This is alpha, but I do feel like we're not far away from fulfilling that promise. And if that appeals to you, then you'll dig Distal. Uh, so many folks. You're so nice. All right. And yeah, so let's talk about some of the other elements of the game here. Uh, let's see. So narrative is a like a shared fiction is an important part of Distal in particular. I feel like sometimes we yeah, okay. Have you ever been chased down by a GM? Like, "Ah, give me your give me your backstory. Like, I need I need the information in order to plan my campaign." Um, and then you're forcing almost, certain types of players to have to care about their characters. But what if we just bake that in from the start? What if we systemize creating a background in such a way that it's fun and you it's not a huge stretch of the imagination to kind of put the pieces together. You're going to have people who are less creative than others, some people who are less invested than others, and some people who will give you 3 pages of backstory before you even play the game. That is a it's a weird sort of paradigm that we try to solve in a clever way through Distal. So in Distal, your backstories are relevant to they're relevant to the campaign mechanically as well as narratively, of course. So we'll be doing some background creation stuff later. And I front loaded my slides. I shouldn't have done that. We're gonna do some character creation stuff later when we bring on our first guest, but that's not for like 2 hours. So we're gonna skip. We gotta do some skipping around. Uh, but we have these narrative elements in the game, and backgrounds are a big important part of that. And we're gonna run a giveaway in just a moment. Actually, we're gonna run multiple giveaways, but one of them is gonna pertain to backgrounds. So you should download the alpha material, get yourself situated, because I want to hear what you come up with. The other way, one of the other things that we do is that at session zero, so this is the very first team building exercise you do. Session zero has been a concept that's been popularized a lot in the TTRPG space with just because it gets everybody on the same page, and it's really good to know what kind of players you're playing with, what kind of uh, things that your players care about. What do they want to do? One of the ways that we try to address that is in session zero, all the players at your table are they're going to come together and build an organization. And they do that very similarly to how they build backgrounds, which is prompt based. But you in for organizations, what they do is all your characters know each other, and you're finding that reason that they know each other, and you're figuring out what sort of reputation you have in the world, what the surrounding regions think about you, and it helps define who you are and how you'll move through the world. And we do that in just a few prompts. It is a really fun, very easy team building exercise that gets everybody on the same page with knowing what they want to do. And it can help the GM like set the themes and the tones of the game and that sort of thing too. Let's see, what else we got? And then mechanics. So some of those things are mechanics we talked about, but there's also very more like gameplay driven mechanics that stem from this concept of a shared story. For example, the way that we roll initiative is that we don't roll initiative, but at the same time, it's not so loose as we're not just making it up on the go. So a GM might say like, roll a perception check as you look around the outskirts of or the like the surrounding forest clearing, and if you fail, perhaps that first we don't have goblins in the game at this point, but that first character gets assaulted by like an arrow gets fired at them, and that's the enemy's first turn, and then it's your turn to figure out who goes next. And we do this back and forth. It's a staggered initiative. One person goes, then the GM has one of their monsters go, and then back and forth, and then it locks on a turn order, and then you just loop back through it again. So it's like streamlined. It's really really good. I and just that saying like make a check, pass or fail, then that initiates a combat. You do it in a way that makes sense. I'm not in Twitch chat right now. VTS, are you handing out subs or something? Why am I seeing so many thank yous? That's awesome. Thank you. Thanks for doing that. Uh, let's see what else we got going on. So there's a lot in Distal that lends itself to a a mechanical like a narrative side of gameplay that drives some of the mechanics of the game. And Sucrose father. Oh my goodness. All right. So we're gonna skip over the next couple of slides here. But oh, also, if anybody has questions, please ask. Just, just throw it in chat. Learn more about Distal. That's what I'm here for. I'm going to I'm gonna go through, some of the talking points that I kind of had prepared, but this is mostly free form and it's your time. So hit me with whatever you want. Thank you. I don't know what's going on here, but I appreciate it. All right. Yeah, so questions, please totally feel free. Hit me with that. But that was basically the quick overview of some of these components of Distal. I'm gonna let's talk about combat a little bit too. So if you're coming from a 5e Pathfinder style of game, very tactical, this is you it'll just totally make sense. Distal in general was designed in such a way that players from those games are going to be able to very quickly pick up the rules and kind of hit the ground running. It's we work off of feet. Players take their turns moving around the battlefield and contesting enemies and that sort of thing. And it's you go I go you go I go kind of all throughout. The game was it's streamlined in such a way that we looked at a lot of the common pain points that exist within Pathfinder and Dungeons and Dragons, and the way that those games play at various levels, and uh, made a very intentional decision to try to kind of curb some of the mechanical elements that make turns last forever. So when we say streamlined, we are designing the game in such a way that there it's very easy to for a lot of reasons it's very easy to run. It's easy to play. You're not crunching like buckets of little modifiers, and there isn't so much like mental gymnastics that like I would say that there's not even there's a lot to learn. It's a rules heavy game, but it's it all just kind of works. All right, it's gonna sound like I'm tooting my own horn if I say stuff like that, but if you haven't played it, go check it out. Uh, it should be. It's by all accounts very easy to pick up. So, is there any way? Oh, let's see. Here's a good question from Darkness. Is there a way to support more without adding extra books? Ooh, extra books. So there's an add-on for play sessions. So if you want an introductory session, there's an add-on where I'll sit in with your players. Actually, I can probably bring that up on the screen if you give me just a wee bit. But aside from that, that's about it at the moment. Darkness. I appreciate the thought though. Henry says it could be interesting to hear about the process itself of creating the game a little bit later. Yeah, yeah, yeah. We can definitely talk about it. It's a trip. I love building things, and anybody who knows me, it's like constantly. Like that's the thing that I care most about is making things, and I'm really big on. I mean, so designer background, really big on the understanding of how mechanics affect certain things, and I love the idea of balancing certain elements in the game, and I have a very analytical approach when it comes to breaking down other games, and all of that lends itself to the development of a new game, and it also makes me super happy at the same time. But quickly, let's talk about. Well, okay, I'm going to take a quick intermission to try to see if I can help out darkness real quick. Boop, 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 doop, 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 boop, boop. Nope, don't do that. Add-ons. Yeah, so the add-ons, the scheduling and intro session with the author is probably the easiest way to support. I think getting a like shooting for the legendary or the limited edition books is a good way to help support that too. And yeah, I think those are just the two best ways to do it there, Darkness. Alrighty. Preston says, "Where's the Bastion flick here in this game?" A reference that maybe not everybody is gonna get. All right, let's jump on down to my face. So, actually, there was a last little punchy bit. Let's run a giveaway. Let's do that up in chat. All right. So listen, this is how this is going to work. Is that on the so if you go to playthisrpg.com, join us for the launch party. People are probably joining from here. Hold on. I'm gonna post the link in chat. So if you're not here, get here and take a look at the campaign. But that is to say, hold on real quick. This playthisrpg.com. Got it? Okay. Okay. There's some stuff in chat. I'll get to it. But the giveaway, engagement. So go to playthisrpg.com, jump in comment in all of the, thank you, VTS. Comment on the updates. Thumbs up the updates. Reply to a comment on, so somebody else's comment in chat. And I'm gonna try to move us over to that. I'll show you. I'm gonna take a stroll down the BackerKit because this will help. So BackerKit does this really cool thing where they have leaderboards of community interaction, and when you so when you thumbs up posts, and you can thumbs up all of the different posts. There's a bunch of updates. You can just thumbs them up, and it's going to bump you higher and higher on that leaderboard. And when you that may be important for the stuff that we're about to talk about. But I'm gonna move us down through. Let's see if I can add this to the stage. Is this gonna look? Is this gonna look good? Hold on. Here? No. I can't remove myself. Well, we'll do this. Not quite. Okay, well, technical difficulties. Okay, so if I were to go down the BackerKit And if you go to this community tab, which you can barely see on my screen, yeah, community, like do what Henry says. Community page has all the things to click on. Yeah, click on all the things. So if you're looking to help this project, and actually this is a good one for you, Darkness. If you're looking to help this project, there's a number of ways to do that. You can do it financially, of course, make a pledge, help us get the game out. BackerKit is pass or fail, meaning that we have to hit that $18,000 goal in order for us to ship games out or ship the book out. If we don't hit that goal, then everything just you just get that money back, or rather, it doesn't even get collected. So there's no risk to you so far as that. You just if it doesn't work out, it's not like a Kickstarter where it's just like yeah, if we get some money, we'll kind of do no, it's nothing like that. But anyway, look at these posts here. So like bang, okay, click on a post. This is a post from a week ago, which also we have stretch goals, by the way, to get awesome people involved. But so you got Van Sickle here saying woot, and he thumbs up his post. I'll also reply with woot, woot also, and that's it. Like that stuff is going to keep pushing you up the leaderboard, which hopefully I'll be able to find. Is it just in the community tab? Let's see. Yeah, so on the okay, well, you can't see it here either. On the right-hand side, you you'll show up on the leaderboard. Um over over here. And we're gonna give out some giveaways based on the leaderboard. So yeah, give it a look. Thumbs up. Oh, and also most importantly, is that when you interact with the page, so you're upvoting posts, you're commenting on them, you're replying to at least one comment in a or at least one community member in those threads, you help push our engagement, which then brings us to the trending page. Getting on the trending page, very super important because it will draw more attention to the project and won't fade out of mind. That's like one of the things that you can do right off the bat to help this project be successful. So if you can, like, yeah, and even you don't even have to throw money at it to help, though. Again, we are trying to fund the book. So if you can, that'd be great. But yeah, let's see. Do 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 do. I did not know this. Whimsy's Cloud says when editing your pledge, you could just click the number and type what you want. I had no idea. That's a good call out. Let's see. And if folks are just joining us now, thank you. We're here to talk about Distal. Please ask questions. I'm going to give this like 30 minutes, around 8 o'clock my time, and then we'll close out the first giveaway. So that gives you time to thumbs up posts, comment on other ones, try to crawl your way up that leaderboard, and all that's super helpful. And then you'll get a free little upgrade. Let's see. In the meantime, so Capiron asks, how accommodating is Distal for shorter campaigns? So very, very accommodating. You're not going to take advantage of of the the long term like character evolution that we, but most of that is a lot of that is like thematic, and it's for like when you're super invested in the character. Distal gives you the possibility of watching that character evolve over time, but you can still run one shots, like create a super cool character, run a one shot, have some combat. It's awesome. Uh, and then shorter campaigns in general. So if you're looking at like, just multi-session arcs, yeah. No, there's absolutely nothing that Distal does that would prevent you from having an absolute blast, doing shorter form stuff. We just like to promote the longer form ideas because it's one of those things that, it's it's always a question mark, whether or not a game is built for long form campaigns or if it's just, like, a fun thing to do a couple of times, and this still leans toward the former, where it's like, yeah, be integrated. You can play this game for forever. Let's see. Kitling says, "Are there any specific mechanics that you created that you're most excited for?" There are so many. Um, so, specific mechanics. Let's talk about. Uh, so, I want to talk. I'll talk about death marks just because that's important to talk about. And I'll go back to an earlier slide too, just to kind of like bring the point home a little bit. So, in regards to the sort of like focus of hardship or on hardships and not heroes, a hero is a hero because it endures, and they sacrifice themselves through heroic actions. It's difficult to call yourself a hero at level one. You know, there's some sort of I would say that there's like an audience that calls you a hero, right? Like it's a person or a town or a region or an empire. And they give you this label, but there's an expectation that you've done things to get to that point. In Distal, your characters are competent adventurers, and during their life of adventure, you can totally be a hero, but that's not your default setting. Realizing that I'm totally getting off topic for the question that you asked, but so death marks are one of the hardships that we kind of showcase as you move through the world. And a death mark is our version of getting near death, or rather, having a near death experience. So, for example, when if you fall to 0 health, how we handle that is that you go unconscious and then you get a death mark. And then every round after that, you'll be accumulating death marks. Unlike Dungeons and Dragons, there aren't like death saves and then you're dead forever. It's it's more like a long-term effect because provided you get stabilized at some point during that combat, you're going to live. You're just going to be forever scarred, forever changed because of it. When you accrue death marks, there's a certain maximum that you can have before before you face the sweet forever sleep. And it's not like a few, it's a bunch. You watch your character as they evolve over time, lose, you tick closer and closer toward death because you've had some bad luck, or maybe you had, uh, fought a massive, uh, deadly opponent, but they didn't finish you off. They just hurt you real good. So functionally, mechanically, death marks they reduce they so skills that you've learned, and skills and knowledge are like your proficiencies in Dungeons and Dragons. So a skill can be like stealth or engineering or influence or uh, mage work, which is like just doing some magic stuff. And these skills that you've learned over time, you might become worse at. So perception is another one. If you take a death mark, we ask you to you choose a skill that you know, scratch off a pip once for each death mark. So you're becoming less capable, and you explain that in the narrative. Maybe you are able to perceive less because you literally lost your eye. Maybe your your leg is now broken in such a way that there's no coming back from that. You walk with a hobble. You'll never be as stealthy as you once were. And that's how you one of the ways that you watch a character evolve. Their outlook on the world changes. Maybe their play style changes too. And the thing about death marks is that there's actually some benefits in there too. So while you're still losing skills, you're gaining additional maximum health. So it becomes more difficult for you to fall over in the future. Not that much more difficult, um, but a small amount of health can go further in distal because we emphasize mitigation of damage. We don't we don't want you to like heal it up after the fact. Yo-yo healing is one of my like biggest pet peeves in Dungeons and Dragons. Just like, oh yeah, no, we have to wait until he falls over to pick him back up. Doesn't make sense. Contrary to it yeah, okay, I can go on about it, but point being, this is one of our solutions to that. Uh, so even when you fall unconscious, you can get stabilized, but based on the amount of death marks that you have, it's going to take you a while uh, to get back into the fight and kind of stand back up. So let's see what else. That's death marks. I am really excited to see people play with that mechanic because there's actually some stuff that you can. So I said like you get more health, right? There's some feats. We don't call them feats. We call them specialties that you can acquire, but very similar to feats. But it requires you to have a certain amount of death marks. So what does that mean for your character? What does it mean for your playstyle? Uh, yeah. So hopefully, Kitling, that answers your question. So Preston is saying in general that I think it's pretty abstract. All those words, seeing a game and emphasizing the moments in which it does better than D&D would help. Okay, Preston. Hopefully the death marks. This is an old comment, but hopefully the death marks thing gives you a specific feature that is different than D&D. I don't want to say that X game is better than D&D whole cloth, and I think you're pointing to that anyway. But I want to make it very clear to everybody that better than D&D is not a goal. It is better at certain things, worse at other things. Distal, I don't think is going to give you that amazing power curve, that fantasy of being demigods, of just being able to roll up enemies. Not going to happen because the way that we approach our mechanics, the way that we approach our gameplay is so drastically different that it's meant to bring everything down a little bit and kind of keep you on a more even keel, opposed to this dramatic growth. One of the ways that we do that, if I'm just jumping over to here, let me see if I can pop on over. Pop on over. Okay, so if we go back to the combat in Distal, tiered play. So one of the things that we do in Distal is that you don't get a health bump every level. There are 12 levels in the game total, and you get a milestone, uh, or every milestone that you hit, which is every 4 levels, is when you get a health bump. And in line with that is also how we bucket the difficulty of monsters. So there's actually like a level 1 tutorial monsters, which are just to help introduce people to the game. But at this level of play or this tier of play, you'll have, a reasonable amount of health, not a huge chance of falling over. But then we're going to go to the next tier, and then the next tier after that, as you gain more levels, and you'll gain more health. But the monsters will also get uh, more. The monsters are going to start to outpace you. Is the current design that can change, but you're going to be more challenged the more you play. Unlike some other experiences where you can just like kind of always have a fight in hand because you either know certain spells, you have a certain composition, or or it's just really hard to plan an encounter around all the crazy stuff that the party can do. We keep everything way more grounded than that. But yeah, Preston, give me if you have a specific, I know I should be like answering the questions, but if there's a specific aspect of D&D that you're curious about, how it compares to Distal, please let me know. I'd love to answer it. Do. Let's see. Henry says that there's a 4-episode actual play series on YouTube. Yeah. So if you go to my YouTube channel, some of you are there already, and you can see some early days uh, actual play that we were doing. It is 4 episodes long. There's 2 combats within those 4 episodes. The first episode is a character creation session. Um, leaned on some, in case this is a trigger warning for anybody, I did lean on some AI generated art in the early days. Quickly learned the error of my ways, and then all the art that you see now is human generated, and that's why one of the reasons why this BackerKit campaign exists, because art wicked expensive, and I really want a product that I can be proud of, and appeals to me visually. So let's see. Hey, Akadog, thank you very much. It's going through. All right. Oh man. Hi, Koki. Hell, I'm here after my 12-hour gaming shift. That's intense. Thank you for joining us. I don't know what this is, Wodrick, but thank you also for joining us. All right. So let's see what else we got going on. I think at this point, it'd be cool to talk about the kind of the shipping, the planning, the or rather the our timelines on everything. But for those of you who don't know, pop on over here. So let me get my big dumb face out of the way. So Distal is available right now on playthisrpg.com. You can download free Alpha Core rules, an Alpha Quick Start, which has 5 pre-generated characters, and uh, a pared down set of rules to make it super quick to jump in the game. Wicked easy. And then there's also a second beginner's adventure, because the quick start has an integrated adventure, and the separate beginner's adventure, it's called A Trader's Due. Uh, links right off the back of that if you want. But aside from that, we do have some like adventure generating tables and that sort of thing to give you some ideas. And then there's plenty of monsters in the game itself. So, or rather, monsters that you can use to create encounters. Alrighty. All right, let's talk about some more nitty gritty. Actually, you know what? How are we looking on the updates? Have y'all liked, thumbs up, crawled? Nope. No. Me echoing. The launch day AMA is showing up. Up that leaderboard. Okay, we got Kitling at the top. Ben B. Ben B. Rockin. Uh, just beneath that, Dark King X. Just beneath that. So got some folks on the leaderboard. Yeah, very nice. All right, I'll let that go. We'll just sit on that for a bit. And so about 19 minutes from now, we're gonna close that out. So crawl your way up the leaderboard as best you can. Go to the community tab, look at all the updates, click on the little the updated things. Click on the updated things. And you gain points for thumbing up a post, uh, think thumbing up a commenter's post. Oh wait, no. Replying to a commenter's post and then also posting a comment of your own. So feel free to do that. Just talk about you just talk about how much you want to support Distal in the comments. That's totally fine. Okay, dokie. Let's see what else we got. So one thing that I would love to talk about with all of you is our timeline. So here it is, roadmap style. So quarter two, quarter three is, let's see if I can get my face up here. Okay. So quarter two, we're already in it. So January, February, March is quarter one. We're now in April. Uh, April, May, June. We are looking to get the first beta packet out in closed beta. And participating in the closed beta is done via Patreon. So you can go over there, whatever. Um, Aside from that, the open beta, so this will be open to everybody, is intended to be quarter three. So that's which months are those? Hold on, I got this. Uh, June, July, August? Nope. August, September, one of those. Uh, Having a rough go of it today. But that's open beta. And we should also have the layout draft done for the game. Or taking all the rule set, kind of compiling it, getting it into a proper two spread document, which I have a slide of some of the stuff. So this is what that looks like. Currently, this is just I would say it's a mock up. Like this is not what the actual book pages will look at. What am I? I'm just rambling at this point. Okay. Anyway, but this is what you can expect, and you'll see some of that on the campaign too. So go take a look. Yeah, but the layout draft should be totally done. Right now, the alpha core rules are like 140 plus. The book is expected to be like 300. Uh, and that's after like the lore right now is really punctuated. It's kind of like one page, and I don't expect it to go too much. Like it's not a lore book, and we want to give you enough information there to flesh the world out, but we don't want to be super hyper specific. Hyper specific. It's not a setting guide, but obviously need enough setting to make sense of the world. And then we have like the character levels are currently in the alpha material only 1 through 6, and then 7 through 12 is going to make it in the book too. And then you got all the pictures, which we'll just have to do placements for. And so they'll just be like boxes. This is where picture goes, and then it should be done. And I do this stuff wicked quick. So quarter three, it sounds. I mean, to me that sounds super far away. Uh, and chances are I'll move way quicker than that. Quarter four, though, so you're looking at October, November, December is uh, let's see the government in October. Yeah. So October, November, December is when we plan to get the final beta out. So this open beta, and now after that we do the testing cycle, we're going to make any final. Well, I guess they're not final changes yet, but changes kind of early in. These are tweaks at this point. We know the game is solid, and honestly, we've been testing this since last year, so a lot of it is solid based on feedback. But I think there's plenty of things that we can do. There's a lot of. I'm really excited about getting the next alpha or the next the closed beta packet out. Let's just say that. Um, and then the art should be completed at that point, though it really depends on how much funding we get, because the more funding, the more art. Well, I'll be it absolutely need to contract multiple artists in order to make the timeline work, and being art director is it's kind of. And then we plan to give you the digital. So if you you pledge for the digital edition, you're going to get that quarter four at some point is the current timeline. So it might come as the holidays package in December drop for you. You find some time to play with your friends and that sort of thing. But and then quarter 1/quarter 2 is when we plan to ship the hardcover. So hardcover takes about um, 12 weeks from pre-production to the shipping to get to the point where we can actually ship it out to all of you. So that's quarter 1/quarter 2. There are like you're gonna hit holidays. So like even Lunar New Year, it are uh so Print Ninja is the place that I'm planning to go through currently, but there's probably cheaper options that I'm still exploring. Uh, but they're reliable, and I want to make sure that this product is like wicked good. So, uh, but they get the products printed in China. So with that being the case, you have Lunar New Year, which is a 10-day holiday, pretty sure, which takes place in either January, February timeframe. So that will delay things a little bit. And then there's other stuff kind of along the way. So the earlier we can get the game tested, wrapped up, like art wrapped up, good. We will be able to jump right in, get the hardcovers, ship them out, and then it'll be good to go. You'll be playing this game with the book proper. Uh, First half of next year is the goal. Let's see. We got some questions rolling in. Boop, 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 ba-doop, ba-doop, boop, boop. What do you use for layout? So I use Affinity Publisher 2. Tried it on InDesign. Affinity Publisher is it was so much quicker to learn, easier to navigate. There are some failings, but they're few and far between. I like it so much more than InDesign. During the playtest, you tried to break the game to find out the weak spots, conflicting rules, OP underpowered aspects. Yeah, so all of our testing is so when I run sessions to test the game, it has a very specific goal in mind. It's not like, just play it a little bit and then see what happens. There's some of that, but it's usually like centered around a very specific aspect of the game that we're trying to prove or break or find like, does this feel good? What are the possible implications of doing it this way versus doing it this way? So being very intentional about your testing is an important part of ensuring that you create a good game. A lot of organizations would handle this internally, and then when you open it for like, yeah, it's open beta, you have to be the best sort of feedback that you get is via survey, and we'll be doing something similar to try to get people's feels. But the best testing is going to be the ones that where we have very uh, what do you call it? Things that we're accounting for. So, like, we're going to test the hide mechanics. We're going to test um, the like, how does initiative feel? We went through like three different versions of initiative before getting to the one where it's at currently, and this still needs to be tested more to make sure that it's like, does it make sense for everybody to like, does it feel natural? So, we absolutely do try to break the game. Uh, hey, thanks, Baco. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. All right. So while I'm on the roadmap, are there any questions about timelines or anything? I'm just gonna drink this. I'm sweating. Let's see. What else we got going on? Okay. So 9 minutes till we close out the first giveaway. The second one's going to go faster than this. I promise. That was I think plenty of people have had plenty of time to uh, to get on the leaderboard. And also, hey, also, if you're just joining us or recently joining us, you can engage to move your way up the community leaderboard. Uh, I didn't reveal this earlier, but first place is absolutely going to get something, and a random people on that board are going to get something too. So you are the way that you can help us is to thumbs up posts. Like click on the community tab, which we'll see if I can just go down there. Yeah. Okay. So on that, well, it's going to be look at small. Um, yeah, that's fine. So go to the community tab and click here. You can see all of these little updates, even the old ones and the new ones. Post a comment and uh, post a comment. Thumbs up the post. Look at this. There's so many. Vote in the polls. I'm pretty sure that helps too. And reply to a comment that somebody else has posted. And then you'll rocket up the leaderboards, and then we'll just give away fun stuff. Let's see. Zaz says, pie in the sky goal. How much is needed to cover all the art you would want? So the 18,000 goal is what I would say like the minimum. I would not run this campaign with lower than that because art is expensive. Even with the 18,000, I'm gonna need to like bring down the the quality, I feel like, of the art, or find ways to do it either in batches or more cheaply or do less art. I need to find the middle ground. And that's really important to me because I like the artist, some of the artists that I'm currently working with, and I would like to continue working with them. And again, art isn't cheap. So need to find a middle ground. I am excited to put together a very pretty book and one that makes you feel super immersed in the world. But 18,000 is, I don't think it's going to have enough. So hopefully we do more. That being said, how much more? I would love to be sitting at probably 50,000. And that's like we'd be killing it then. No, absolutely no concerns at all. And the quality of the art would be wicked dope. So if we can get to that point through this campaign, which ends May 29, May May 20 something, uh, then we'll be doing pretty well. Let's see. So Hamstertron says, how do you plan to spread the word about Distal? So uh, marketing is very difficult in this age unless you unless you're paying into it. The Many of you probably, maybe not the people on the stream, but a lot of the people who are followers on Distal, I you would have come in from like a Facebook ads lead, so or Facebook ad that you clicked on, thought it was interesting, and then hopefully I was able to grab you there. That's marketing, or rather advertising. Um, and it's expensive, so I can't do a lot of that unless the campaign does well. So it's a little bit kind of catch 22. Um, I've reached out to content creators, and unfortunately, I would say that like D&D in general is, or rather games that are too close to D&D. And that's one of the reasons I'm sure that Daggerheart pivoted to 2D12. It's one of the reasons that MCDM went the other direction with 2D6, but they're debating 2D10 with their dice as well. Is because it's like, yeah, the math is cool, less swingy than D20, but at the same time, it makes it easier to sell a product like this because it's not so. When people think D20, they think Dungeons and Dragons, Pathfinder. Even though Dragonbane came on the scene recently in a modern edition, so or rather the modern edition of Dragonbane came onto the scene, and that's a D20 roll under, which is, I think, for a different audience. So there's a culture that's built up around the D20 that I like. I when people have, like, when you roll a natural 1, when you roll a natural 20, people know what that means, and it could be funny, it could be sad, it can be exciting, and those are all things that I think the swinginess of a D20 can help you achieve. That is to say, however, that I know I'm getting off topic at this point, but I haven't talked enough about the game. I've been talking about, like, game adjacent stuff. There's a mechanic in the game called willpower, and what it does and some other mechanics in the game do is they shore up a deficiency, um, with the D20 as it exists in a game like Dungeons and Dragons, where you'll be able to you'll roll a D20, you'll miss, and then it feels like you wasted your turn. MCDM tried to solve this by making it just so you hit all the time, which is exciting in some ways, and then I'm sure like that'll come back around at some point too. But the way that our outlook on it is that missing is an important part of the game, but you aren't given enough agency over what you want to do about it. So we have willpower, which it's a limited resource during combat only, and you can add it to the roll. You just have to figure out how badly you want to succeed. Um, and even then, it's a dice roll. So and there's a number of mechanics that are like that. They give you more agency over a failure. Like, what does a failure actually mean? Does it mean that, oh, okay, my turn is done, or does it mean like what else can I do? And that's a really cool thing about making failure feel uh, less deflating. Anyway, there's a unsolicited uh, discussion about Distal's mechanics. Let's see. Hazardtron also says that we push out your own actual plays, or will you approach other groups the same way publishers approach YouTubers for publicity? That's a good question. I don't know the answer to it actually. So we've done some actual plays. You can find them on the youtube.com/warpathrow. But those are an older version. I would love to find a group and then just run Distal and record it and that sort of thing. Finding people in real life is hard. I don't like. I wish I had more patience for the online stuff, because I find just it's just not as fun. Not as fun as playing in person for me personally, because I enjoy the human connection, which is kind of hard to come by nowadays. Let's see. All right. Well, it's about time to figure out who the winners are for this campaign. So let me do some things and stuff. How do I? No, don't play. Don't play. Okay. How do we see? All right. So our first winner is, and I'll message you in particular. Um, see, Henry, you still awake? If so, you want to. This shouldn't be your responsibility. You want to roll 1d10? A 1d10 for me. And let me know where you end up. I got a 2 on the d10. Okay. Okie dokie. So first, I'm going to put the winners in chat. Uh, okay. So giveaway. Our winners are Ben B. Rockin and Kitling. You will both receive a message at the probably via email, and I'll make sure that you have a little code that you can enter when the survey goes live, so that you can enter it, and then we can get your upgrade. And it's gonna so the way the giveaway works, just to kind of reiterate to the folks that are just joining us. Let's go back to this. All right. So the way the giveaways work are that you need to at least be a digital edition backer. You have to be in a country that we can deliver to. You have to pay for shipping because you're going to be getting like a hardcover product. If you have a PDF, we're going to upgrade it to a book. If you have a book, we're going to upgrade it to the next one, which is a month of the Distal monthly digest. If you have a limited edition, we're going to give you another book of the standard edition. So when we collect your surveys, which happens at the end of the campaign, whatever whichever package you chose, we're going to give you the upgrade on top. So congratulations. Congratulations. Okay. All right. What other questions we got? What else should we talk about? We are going to run another giveaway a little bit later in the stream, and then we'll have some more winners. Let's see. Dog says, I like that idea. Mitigated failure. Nothing worse than blowing a turn because of a random roll, especially when it's a skill ability you specialize in. Yeah, so full disclosure, I think there's still going to be plenty of that, but hopefully the game is structured in such a way where it doesn't feel it doesn't feel as bad. Uh, there's a there's a line that you have to walk between uh, feeling if everything's always working out for you, then the theme of kind of being grounded and in your decisions having consequences, and those consequences, lending meaning to those consequences, uh, you can lose it, and we don't want to do that. But when it comes to combat, there's so much you could do. The combat's super fun too, and for example, like the classes in Distal are all to greater and lesser degrees grounded in the lore of the world, and you can build them in basically any way you want. So they have like they're very distinct. For example, like the Ember Gut is it's a caster that has made a deal with some planar entity on the plane of fire, and in turn they've been branded and kind of given this very volatile power that they play with. So Ember Guts in general, they kind of like they have to walk this line between um, they use willpower more than other classes, which we still need to feel that out a little bit more. But uh, they're always it's just walking this line between power and control. And then you have classes like the Ferryman who deal specifically with how death works in the game, where when people die or drop to zero health, their soul begins to rend itself from the body. And if you pass on, you have to move across the Ebon Deep, which is just this vast, seemingly infinite sea. And and it's been more difficult lately for your loved ones to reach the other side. That's like the short, condensed version. And because of that, ferrymen were kind of brought into being because they've already seen death and come back, and they have some sort of control over it. So they are able to help shepherd those spirits into the beyond. And that's like a class. That's a class that you can play, and you don't need to play them like that. Like they don't need uh, to go around to all the nursing homes and help people pass on. It's more like they have a bunch of cool power. So like when an enemy drops to zero in combat, a ferryman can make their soul lash out at something nearby, and they can just like play with death in a way. And they're also the only class that is at a later level when they fall in combat, they automatically stabilize. They still take the death mark from dropping, but they're not going to take any more after that because they'll come back. And that's like it's a very specific thing that no other class has access to or will get access to. But it's like if you know one's on your team, then the whole paradigm of how you approach combat might be different. So some really cool stuff in that. It's a very class heavy game, but you can build them in a lot of different ways too. If you want to build something that's more support oriented, there are ways that you can do that. Like feats that you can, I say feats, specialties, feats that you can pick up. You can uh, your weapon choices. I should just go through the packet. That'd be way more fun. Give me wait one. Let's do this. Okay. So I have up on screen. This is the Alpha Pack of 5 material. So and this was released what February 2024. So it's been out for a while I've been focusing uh, on trying to get this campaign going. Aquadog says, "Do you have multi-class?" Sorry, Aquadog. Aquadog, pronouncing it better now. Do you have multi-classing? No, we don't. There were some earlier in-house versions. I don't think this ever went out in a published packet that were using subclassing. So you could dip into one class and receive very specific abilities from that class in lieu of taking a specialty, which you get specialties every even level. Um, and this game in general is very broad or has a lot of breadth to it. In the I mean, it has depth as well. The depth mostly comes from the character class, but the vertical progression I would say is probably more broad. Um, I can see a dip to get that auto stabilize feature. Yeah, that's like one of those things that you wouldn't be able to get because we're not trying to imbalance the game. I mean, it's been a long time since I've toyed with the idea of subclassing, and definitely don't think that that was one that we gave them. But there's because we want the class to have some things that feel distinct to them, and that means not giving you every ability because your main class is like this is what you learned, it's what you fell into, it's what you gravitate toward, and you might learn some tricks on the side, but it's not going to be to the same degree as your chosen class. Ben Burakin says, "Can you mix and match spells from different casting classes?" Yes. Um, so the way that spells work is that there are 4 different sources. Here, let me just um, found it. 5. Sorry, Anima, Celestial, Planar, Primordial, Weave. Some so all the spells will have tags associated with them, uh, and these tags also indicate which schools they belong to. But you'll see that certain spells have multiples, like so a diving bubble, which is like low level stuff, like cantrip stuff, uh, can be planar or it can be primordial because you can fulfill both fantasies by or with both of those spell sources. Bro, I love spell sources. Ian. Yeah, so and each class gets by default two or two sources of spells. Like for example, if we look at the and again, all this is in the playtest material, so feel free to give it a look. But this is the Oracle. The Oracle gets at level 1 Celestial and Weave spellcasting. and which means that they can cast things like, uh, well, they can cast anything that has a tag of celestial or weave. And our so in Distal, your proficiencies rank up independently of so you invest in each proficiency. So there's going to be some things you're good at, some things you're not so great at. When it comes to like casting is a combat proficiency, weapons are combat proficiencies, and they're all individual. So you have to choose what you want to be good at and what you want to be great at, and those are some of the choices that help shape your not just your characters but also kind of the feeling behind the game. Let's see. Do you have to prepare spells? No, no. So in Distal, you will learn a certain amount of spells, and at certain levels, you can opt to learn more, or you can like become better at spell casting, certain spell casting sources. Um, but once you know them, you know them. Cool. Alrighty. Let's see what else. What was I gonna talk about with what else we got going on? Yeah, so this is the everything that you'll find in the core rules currently. There are, man, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 classes currently. There were a few more that we had internally that I didn't want to publish because they weren't super balanced. It just didn't feel like they were solid yet, but I would love to return to them later once I got some time to work it out. Um, so later we're going to be doing some character creation as an activity. So if everybody wants to go download this the core rules now, feel free to do that, and we will so download the core rules. Excuse me. And we'll be able to create characters kind of together as we walk through, and then you'll get a feel for how everything works. It's very difficult to just like walk through it, and I would just drone on for days. But the character creation process is very intentional and kind of organized in a way that feels good, makes sense. Let's see. Ooh, this is fun. Do you think this will have a human fighter problem? What do you think will end up least played? So, so I don't think that I. So I know what you're saying. I don't think that human fighter is a problem. I think what it what it really represents is just the things that we gravitate toward, and our comfort with certain types of known genres, known staples, and that sort of thing. Uh, I will say that I tried to make them more interesting than that, just by default. So, for example, when you're playing a human in this game, yeah, you're a human, but you're a Kinsguard, and a Kinsguard is like you have lore, basically. Humans of a fallen empire, eager to make up for the failings of those who have gone before them. So, Kinsguard, as they are now known, were once the King's Guard of the Gold Warren Empire. And that empire was it was known for its ability to slay monsters and and also just the kind of advanced technology that they use. Not like steampunky stuff. It's just smart use of equipment in that day, and they were just known to be able to. It was very. They were a small nation or small empire that were destroyed very quickly due to some underhanded dealings from a rival empire. Hey, Etch a Sketch. Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Do. Let's see. Okay, hold on, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me back up. Okay, so human fighter. So Kinsguard, that's one of the things that we try to do to like inject some flavor. Like, yeah, you're going to be human, but also this is this specific flavor of human that you're able to play in this game. And you don't need to play them like that. You can do whatever you want. But instead of calling them human, which is like, okay, there's so many, um, we try to create a little bit more distinction. And that way we can create multiple types of humans too. So like an Elder Scrolls, um, games like that. What do we? Hold on. What was I going to do? I was going to show you that class for. Okay, so our fighter in this game is a strategist, and there's just like there's a lot that you can do here. You're like, yeah, you're good at. Um, you are weapon master esque. You know how to maneuver around the battlefield, but you're going to be interesting regardless of uh, regardless of how you. Let me put this a different way. So instead of just like generic fighter, you're going to, by virtue of every third level, you gain a signature, which is like it's not branching necessarily, but you can only pick one of the three options, and it's going to help define who you are or like what kind of how you represent the role that you're on or you are. So like a challenging strategist can like challenge um, enemy targets, which all of these abilities interact with other abilities. Um, But if you wanna play somebody who feels more like a tank in the traditional sense, you can do that. Where it's not a taunt, but it also imposes some penalties. Um, and then you have like a pressuring strategist, which would, if you want something that's a little bit more damage oriented, they have pommel strike. And they can blow their reaction on it, and you can and when you maneuver people, which is an ability you get at level 2, you can also shove them. Or you have like a banneret strategist who is they have a banner with a standard on it. So if you imagine, actually, I can show you a picture of it right now. Uh, it's like this. This is the class artwork that we got done for the strategist. So like you can be a banneret that has some sort of that emits their radiates their presence on the battlefield by virtue of this standard that they can plant and unplant and that sort of thing. It's pretty dope. It's pretty dope. A lot of fun to play too. It's like it's familiar, but also there's some really cool stuff in here. Let's see. Let's see. Go back to Ian's question here. Okay, that's awesome. My next question would be, what's your vision for addressing the usual divide between marshals and spellcasters? I would say that by virtue of how we structure this particular system, I don't know that that divide even exists. So, uh, weapons are fundamental. Everybody gets a weapon. Everybody knows how to use a weapon. They're your bread and butter as far as just making basic attacks, especially when you don't have resources for cool stuff that you can do. And the type of weapon is going to be totally up to you. There's so many different options, and they're all like they lend themselves to different styles of play, and it's a big part of how you represent your character. All characters have by default, uh, if you're dual wielding, that's two attacks on your turn. If you're wielding a two-handed weapon, that's one attack with the two-handed weapon on your turn. And just by virtue of doing that, the and I would say the the flavor, I guess, that we embed in each specific class, everybody's doing cool stuff. Everybody's doing cool stuff. So I think spellcasting gives you a lot of utility, but it's not done in the same way as Dungeons and Dragons, where or certain like oh yeah, you need spells to kill certain things, and then fighters aren't going to be good until they have a magical weapon. That doesn't really happen here, and it's being intended to or intentionally designed so that we avoid those sorts of things. But I mean, more testing will tell too. Strategist seems cool. I guess I was looking for. Do you think it's a good idea or bad idea that some things are very popular? What do you think the most scary accessible race classes are? Okay. Yeah. So we want to make sure that things are familiar enough to where we don't alienate you as a as somebody who likes fantasy games. And because a lot of our understanding of fantasy, at least in the West, is uh, centered on Tolkien and Gygax, as far as the worlds and the 50 years of Dungeons and Dragons that's been developed, there are certain expectations. You will find dwarves, you will find elves in this world. You will also find things that are less common, and I don't I don't know how many people will gravitate toward them, but I think that as long as you have as long as you have options that feel good and don't like take you out of the experience, I think that it's a win for everybody. For example, actually, here's a good example. So Dungeons and Dragons, one of their first one D&D playtest, uh, or one of their earlier playtests had this species, race, whatever, of they're like angelic animals, basically. And the way that they set it up is like, yeah, it could be any type of animal that you want. Um, and they back down, and I think, or so it's not going to be in the core material. It'll be in probably supplemental material. And I think that a lot of the pushback that they got, and we talked about this on live stream too with John from Dragon Mind, is that it feels really weird to have it in the default setting because like, ah, yeah, no, there's a triceratops just running around with a the full frill in the world like it, and also they could fly. It doesn't. It's not close enough to the fantasy that we know in Dungeons and Dragons. So there's like this weird uh there's this weird like paradigm that you kind of live in when you're creating a fantasy game that has broad appeal because you want to do stuff that's interesting and that nobody's seen before. Though you're that's a very difficult dream to chase. Um, but you have to put in enough familiarity, or else people aren't going to understand what's going on. They won't be able to connect the idea to what you're trying to offer. Akadog says, "Do you treat a shield as a weapon?" N No, not currently. Shields have a lot of cool benefits, but they're also something that have changed a lot, through the playtest because doing doing damage is it's important, and it was very difficult to be willing to sacrifice, your offhand for a shield, and at the same time, I didn't want it to be like a passive buff to your defense. In Dungeons& and Dragons, it's like a +2 to AC. I didn't want that to be the case. I wanted it to be a little bit more active than that. And it does some cool things, like it can prevent you from being struck critically. It just turns it to a normal hit, which is probably a little bit deflating for the GM. So we'll have to figure out how we feel about that. But it also can you can do a counter roll. So all armor in this game has an armor buffer associated with it. So when you take damage, you can roll a counter die if it's of the correct type, and then you can reduce the damage by that amount. And reducing damage, incoming damage is more important than healing it after the fact. With the shield, you kind of get the best of both worlds, where you can wear armor that might not, because your armor is going to wear down over time, and that actually has It's a super fun dice chain mechanic. But like if you're trying to mitigate damage and you roll a die, it lands on a one. It is it reduces the die size by a step, and in doing that, your chances of the armor eventually it doesn't break, but it becomes compromised. Like you can't roll to reduce incoming damage anymore. If you ever roll a one on a d4, it becomes compromised. So you might have like a D8 to start or a D6 to start, which is more common, and you just keep rolling it. Like, yeah, no, it's all good until you hit that that 16.6% on a D6, and then then it goes down, and then you're like sweating it because you have a 25% to break chance to break the armor at that point. Anyway, um, but shields can also buffer attacks. So that's the thing. Some abilities, like I think there's a shield bash ability with certain classes or maybe with a certain feat, but you have to kind of opt into it. It's not by default, though maybe it should be. I don't know. Still don't know how I feel about shields. Like pointless frogs. This is a reference to a stream that we did before. Thank you, VTS. It sounds exciting in terms of world building. How intertwined are the setting of Distal and its system? How easy will it be for DMs to use the system in the worlds? So uh, I would say it is intended to be very intertwined. This is a specific setting that we are trying to create. Right now, you can kind of do whatever you want with it. It's it's an everyday fantasy, sort of. It's in that space at the moment where you can just make things up, just use the game for the mechanics, and you'll be close enough to the in the fantasy space that you can make up adventures all day long. And as time goes on, though, so I'll say two things. First of which is that the classes are very integrated. I think you got here after I gave the whole spiel about the ferryman and that sort of thing. The classes are meant to be distinct to the world, and like the reason for being is tied to some element in the game or in the story of the game. And then the other, let me just put my face on up. The other thing is that the over time, I want to narrow down the setting a little bit more to make it more compelling. So I want you to be able to say like, oh, that's Distal, just by the setting alone. So it can't be so broad, uh, and that it's generic. I don't want that. But the intention is to like build your own stuff off of it though. So it's got to ride that line. Let's go. I'm down for the setting and the mechanics to be intertwined, just like Star Wars Legacy. Kind of playing a specific universe. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, we'll figure out exactly where that line lives, kind of as more things become written. But go download the free alpha packet, that sort of thing, and you'll be able to see a lot of the lore that exists currently, and a lot of it is uh, implicit as well. So through certain ability names and just like the very short descriptions, kind of lend themselves to a lot of the elements of the world. Uh, awesome. Okay, cool. So does anybody have questions? I think we've kind of hit the point in the stream where I'm really hoping that my guest becomes available and so that we can do something fun. But I also don't want to. I don't know. Maybe we'll just go through the packet some more. Okay. All right. Let me show you something dope. All right. Okay. So if you're looking at well, let's see. We're gonna do character creation, so that'll all happen. There's a lot of advice on. I mean, everything is here. You can play this game for forever. Currently, it'll only be at low levels, but you can play it forever. let me oh, you know what? Here's something that I want to share because it's an awesome way to handle creatures, I feel, but I don't talk about it enough, and often I talk about it in in ways where people can't really follow along. But let's look at some of the monsters in Distal and how we handle that, because it's a little atypical from what you would find in Dungeons and Dragons, but at the same time, it's like close enough to the mark where it totally makes sense. Uh, oh, interesting. Any expansion books planned? I will say not yet. Um, I have some ideas for areas that I would like to go that aren't they're not strong enough to be focused on in the main book, but have enough compelling details that they should be in an expansion somewhere. But realistically, none of that matters unless this thing gets funded. And I would really like to. I would really like this to be a foundation for people to build on top of. Actually, you know what? I'm going to talk about that for a quick sec because it's important. Okay, so one of the things that I feel strongly about is so Distal is one of those games where January 2023, when Wizards of the Coast was, um, taking a dump on on potentially taking a dump on the livelihood of third party content creators. It was one of those things where I was like, man, why do we even why are we still doing this with Dungeons and Dragons? And I love D&D. I'm still going to play D&D probably, but I also haven't bought a book from them in quite some time. And there's a number of reasons for it, but I feel like we were all given a really good motivation to make something new. I was super excited when Cobalt Press was talking about making a new game. I was like, wow, they got some really good designers over there. I really hope they flex their muscles and do something original without the baggage of 50 years of pre-existing design. Ultimately, they decided to pivot away from that and kind of walked it back to like, "Oh, okay, we're just going to do something that's more derivative, but create a foundation um, for future content creators using our game um, as sort of like a launching board." And that's fine. Do whatever. It makes sense, especially from a business perspective, that's one of the directions that they could go. However, I mean, you see games like Daggerheart, like MCDM's RPG, and like I mean, even DC 20 is trying to do it, where there is more potential, or there's a potential future that exists uh, without D&D being the only go to, particularly for a D20 system. Uh, and I think it's important to at least entertain that because we can. I just think that we're at a transition point. So with Distal, I would love to create an open license where you can just build on top of Distal, and third party content creators would just be able to release their stuff, for without having to worry about royalties, without having to worry about getting dealing with just the whims of corporate oversight. Because that's ultimately what it comes down to is like Hasbro doesn't have your best interests in mind, and they certainly don't care about the art. They just, you know, want to do what makes sense for them financially. And anytime that you are in that position, which some people aren't in it voluntarily, like they have to do it for necessity. But anytime that you're in that position, it takes away the from the power that you can have as a as an artist, you know? Eh, we can do so much more when we aren't worrying about money as our main motivation. Hopefully, Distal can be a good platform to build on, and it's being built with that in mind. Uh, and it's also not going to be. I mean, there's no way that a game like this becomes the next D&D. That would be like ignoring 50 years of a cultivated community and just the massive power of marketing, that sort of thing. So that's not what I want. That's not what I care about. Um, but for people who do care about getting out of the Hasbro ecosystem, I would love for this to be like a safe haven for them to go to, where they can still feel like the game is familiar enough to design for, uh, familiar enough to play with friends, fun enough to talk about, and doesn't have like those just the long term uh, baggage that comes from just like a really long lived title. But anyway, that's just a lot of words. Okay, so let's talk about that was just in response to the Preston's question. Let's see. Building on Ian's question, what's the learning curve for a first time GM? Should be pretty quick, actually. So, well, okay. I'm going to walk that back a little bit. This game is currently with the alpha material designed for players who know, like basically for experienced TTRPG players. If this is your first time running a game like this is not a good introduction to the hobby. And I don't know how much of the game I want to devote to the new GM, new player experience. It's still up in the air because I think that we have a lot of this is one of the great things about having a game like D&D and a great thing about having that 50-year history is that a lot of people who are interested in this style of play have already learned a lot about what it means to do that. We can make, we can argue about whether or not, Critical Role had an impact or positive and negative benefits or whatever. But you've probably learned uh, how a D20 system works by kind of by osmosis, just like being adjacent. And I can lean on that to say, like, hey, okay, have you played a D20 RP or TTRPG before? Cool. This will totally make sense for you. And that's what Distal is intended to do. I think that in the future, if the game became popular enough, we could release a starter box. And I honestly feel like that's in like a quick start guide, maybe. I mean, one exists currently, but it doesn't have it has advice for new GMs, but not like so much advice for like a fresh GM, right? Um, but I think that that is where that information should live. And we wouldn't necessarily want it to take up so much space in the book that even experienced GMs are looking at every single day. Does that make sense? Um, let's see. Thank you. Thank you, Hawthorns. I don't know what this is. Broken cow leg. Um, doop, boop, boop, doop, doop, doop. Good words. Thank you. It's always good to hear your inner thoughts, but thank you. I could sound really smart, but say a lot of nothing. So, so make sure to keep me on track when I'm just like running my mouth. Let's see. So, are we gonna? I'm gonna create a new. Gonna create a character. Hi. How you doing, a lot? Let's see. give me just a moment. Does anybody have any questions about Distal in particular? I'm gonna show you the monsters. It'll just be a little bit. Um, okay, we might have a guest on in the very, very, very near future. I'm down to create a character. Okay, cool, Ian. Awesome. Uh, Dark Heresy is a 40k TTRPG that's been D&D all for people who love who love the Emperor. I know enough about the 40,000 universe to appreciate this comment, but very little else. I tried to create a I tried to play with Tyranids way back. Um, I don't think I could ever get into painting minis as a hobby. All right, so let's talk really quick about monsters in Distal because there's some cool what I feel are innovations. Sounds like a really strong word, but maybe you'll agree. Let's start with something super easy. So if I go down to all right, so check this out. Boom. Super zoom in. All right. So there's a couple of things. This is a stat block, right? I think we all, if we played Dungeons and Dragons, very familiar with this. Some normal stuff. I think there's a lot of information here, and we don't necessarily. I think that there's room to make this more efficient. But let me just pitch you on some of this stuff first. So this is a flagged as a tutorial mob. It's one that you can introduce to your new party just as a warm up. They have 1 health. All tutorial mobs do. And but every mob also has an alternate health value. So an alternate health value is something that we encourage a GM to use if they want to make an encounter more difficult, or if they find that their party is just ripping through monsters, because it is a common occurrence. Um, I'll go up to the actual rules, which are over here. So an alternate health pool allows you to bump up the monster's health like another tier, and we tell you specifically it's an easy ripcord to pull when the party is chewing through an encounter faster than expected. Don't be afraid to swap this value on the fly. Always prioritize your player's fun over the plan you made at the start. And here's why we say that. I suck at this. So I have on numerous occasions created an encounter, planned it out. It's like, oh yeah, okay, this makes sense for this for the power level, for the characters, for the situation that they're probably going to be faced with, and then fight's over super quick. And the reason that it's over super quick is because I feel like I'm cheating if I increase the monster health. I know you can do that. I know people tell you to do that. It doesn't matter. If it's not if it's not explicitly stated that this is a rule, I feel like I do not have permission to make the changes. It's an interesting uh interesting headspace, I guess, and I don't know how many people feel the same way. Because if you're like if people are just like, making stuff up on the fly, that also feels weird. So we focus a lot on permission, like because you don't know how much of the game that you're potentially breaking. And I've seen a lot of GMs fall over just because they think that something sounds like a good idea, and then they don't see the knock-on effects until after they've tried and failed. So, um, okay. The other thing that I want to introduce you to real quick. So these are roles. So this is very 4E esque. I actually don't know how much we need them anymore because this took place, or rather, this was created prior to the addition of behaviors, and I'll show you why I'm not sure that they need to exist. Broken Cowleg says, "I already RP'd the health of my enemies when I think the fight is done." It is. Oh, that's I guess that is one way that you can look at it. I'm definitely a sort of by the book GM, not to the point uh where it'll like blow up an experience, but when it comes to combat, for some reason I have this weird honor bound thing where I just can't do it. Okay. The other thing that I'm going to show you about this real quick before we bring in our guest is this right here. So behaviors. All of the monsters in the game are they're saddled with a set of behaviors instead of actions and bonus actions. We call them techniques, but uh, and they're designed in such a way that I mean you can roll on this if you want. It's not always going to make sense or be ideal, but it exists if you're ever like, what should this monster do? I don't know. Maybe it should whatever, or maybe it should whatever. Uh, you can roll. But what's important about this is that all of these abilities are thematic to, or behaviors rather, are thematic to the monsters. Even a normal swarm of rats is interesting because of these behaviors. You have a normal attack. You can bite a target in your space for whatever damage. They have this ability, what overwhelm, or I keep calling them abilities. It's basically that. Scramble onto a target in your space, blinding and muting them until they withstand whatever the effect. They can scatter, evade opportunity attacks, and move 10 feet as you flee to safety. Cause problems, knock over loose objects in spaces you move through, encumbering creatures in those spaces. Every creature gets to do one of these per turn. So as a GM, if you're trying to create encounters in Dungeons and Dragons, you have to do this thing where, like, in order to create an interesting encounter, you have to have like three different types of enemies. Not the case with Distal. You can get a lot more mileage out of a single type of creature because of the array of things that they can do. At the same time, we're not really trying to force you to remember these things or invent them or like we just say like, okay, this is what you do that thing. And it makes it very easy to create encounters. It makes it easy to run encounters. It makes it rewarding for players to learn the behaviors of a creature and then like discover what they do instead of being like like the person in the back has a bow, therefore it's just going to shoot arrows at me. There's a more sensical uh, sort of nature to this, and it's all thematic and in the world. Like it makes sense for the creatures that you're using. So, for example, here one more. You have this bow wolf who is it will tend and rip you. That's an attack. It snaps at a target within reach. Oh, and here's another thing: is that the verbiage in on the monster stat blocks are way different for or than the verbiage throughout the document elsewhere. And the reason for it is that we use a lot of shortcuts here because the GM, you know this stuff. When we say in reach, we say, or you just know that that's 5 feet unless otherwise stated. So we use shortcuts in the verbiage because we know that the GM has an understanding of how the game works. I don't know that we have like perfect verbiage here, but it's uh, it's meant to help shorten a stat block and make it feel like you can add a little bit more flavor to it so that it implies how the GM like should use or like convey that ability. Does that make sense? Okay, we'll go through this super quick. Okay, so snap at a target and reach. You pin them if an ally is also within 5 feet of the target. That's important. Howl at the sky. So force enemies that hear you within 30 feet to deny, which is I'm not going to talk about that. or become encumbered, which is just it makes it so your movement costs twice as much. If you're already encumbered, you become pinned. If you're already pinned, which remember up here, you become slowed. So if you have 3 different wolves using this ability, it will be able to like compound on top of itself. And that's one of those things that makes it more fun to run a lot of the same monster because you can do more things. Stalk, so become hidden while in shadows or in underbrush. Packwork, one allied bow wolf within reach moves alongside you without using their movement. So they would use this one behavior, move across the battlefield so that their ally, you and their ally can set them up to like pin. All of these things make just a group of these very scary creatures to fight. And it makes it so the players need to learn how to deal with it uh, through that encounter. And it also helps the GM figure out what this character is supposed to be doing by virtue of these abilities. Whimsy's Claude says, assuming we add challenge bonus to attack rolls, yes, that's it. It's flat, super easy. You're adding it to attack rolls and the resisting or avoiding negative effects. We didn't want it to be so granular that it's like, oh, okay, for each of these stats, you have a slightly different plus and minus. Though some creatures will say that they're particularly powerful. For example, okay, so this gets a +2 to strength checks, so it's this +2 plus this +2. But aside from that, we try to keep it as simple and purposeful as we can. All right, that is it. I am going to bring in our guest finally. Finally. Let me add Steph to the stage. So, Steph, feel free to unmute. We played on here, let me figure this stuff out. Sorry. Okay. So, Stephanie is a longtime friend. She also appears in the actual play episodes that we did a while ago now, forever ago. And those 4 episodes. You can go watch them online. But she's also somebody who's helped a lot with the internal playtesting of Distal. So, hi.
Hi.
Okay. Today we're going to be doing some fun stuff. We're going to go through character creation, and we're going to walk through it. I'm going to explain it, and Steph, we're going to talk about it, and then also see what you end up creating.
Yeah, and people can like play along at home, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. So if you're in chat and you've downloaded the Alpha Core rules, you can just step through it with us. So let me try to.
I do want to say right out of the gate, my favorite page of the character sheet is the progress sheet, because I always tell myself every time that I build a new character, like in D&D or whatever, that I'm gonna track it, because it gets confusing by the time you get like even just level 5 or 6. You're like, wait, how did I get this number? And or this AC or whatever. So, and I always tell myself I'm going to do it, but I never remember. So this takes care of it for me, which is awesome.
Hopefully other people dig it too. It's really simple, but it's something that is just so like out of sight, out of mind. Unless you are the type of player who has like a character journal that they're going through and kind of just like recording all their stuff.
Yeah, well, it's better to have it than not provide it, because then I just never remember. Like,
Yeah,
I'll do it on
sure.
the back of my sheet, and nope, it doesn't happen. So this is helpful.
No worries. Okay, so we're going to start right from the beginning. The first step of creating a character is to choose a lineage. Lots of options here. Steph, what do you think?
I always find myself drawn to Yvain.
Why though?
Why? Okay, because I'll tell you why. Because okay, I maybe it's just me, but I'm not really into being like furry or feathery. Like I'm not. That's not really. And then the I don't know, like Ulstadter is cool. I always like playing Goliath in D&D. Um, but I don't know. It's just like the other ones feel like things I know. So I get drawn to the Yvain just because it has that little bit of it's kind of mystical, and so I just like it. Do you want me to pick a different one? I know every time we do this, I pick Yvain.
uh, yeah, why don't you pick a different one? I'm gonna force you to
Ooh.
get a little
Okay,
bit outside your comfort zone.
then I will do Atlian.
Good. It's my personal favorite.
Okay. Oh, so we could do your favorite, but not mine?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, fine.
Ian is saying that you should pick Fury.
Isn't that see? That's the bird like one. And
Well, okay, they're like harpies
right.
from Greek mythology.
And they have feathers and
Yeah,
talons.
yeah.
I think you know what I think it is? I think there's a piece of me that likes to be able to put myself into the character, and I don't want feathers or to be furry.
Yeah, that's
So
fair.
like I don't, and it's like some people like going more even more mystical like that, or fantastical, but I kind of I'm just not into like stepping that far out, and so I could see myself being like an ocean person,
Okay.
but
All
that's
right.
just me. Like
No, it's
it's
fine.
not, yeah.
Yeah. Well, so hopefully, Ian, you can pick Fury
Yeah.
and yeah, follow along. Okay, so let's. So you're gonna pick Atlian. Atlian, it says that 30 feet of movement, 1d8 health, and +1 whiz. And health is not related to the class, or rather, the health die is not related specifically to the class in Distal. You have a health die that is related to your lineage, and this matters for certain things too. Like when you take fall damage, it relates to your um, you roll your health die and then take the damage. When you're drowning, you roll your health die and take that damage. And I'm super proud of that because it is a super fun mechanic to help balance out some of. So, like, Olstarter gets 1d12 health, which is silly high. But guess what? If they fall off of something, it causes problems. So, yeah. Let's see. Atlian also get proficiency with Atlian weapons. They have Manta Glide, which allows them to glide while airborne, so long as they're wearing fitted light armor, and swimming doesn't encumber them while they're wearing fitted light armor or fitted medium armor. They're amphibious, which means they don't begin drowning when they're underwater for too long, and they're a medium creature that shoulders 3 burdens without penalty.
Okay, so I have a question
Yes.
because I don't think I've actually built a character with the new sheet.
Nope. Yeah.
Yeah. So is my health die and my HP die?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I just abbreviated it with health or HP on the sheet.
Okay. You should capitalize the P.
Noted. And then, so let
Why
me
does
know when
it say
you've.
bonus too? It says HP/bonus.
Yeah, so you'll get that in your class.
Oh, so that's not
Yep.
this die?
No, the health die. Let me show everybody the character sheet.
Yeah.
Um, okay. So in the character sheet, you have well, here, HP die slash bonus. So you'd be die would be 1d8,
Right.
and then the bonus would be slash. We don't know yet.
Oh, right. Okay, I remember now what that is. I thought they were like the same thing. So I
Or
thought the D8 was also like a bonus thing, but I got you.
yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, okay, cool. So let's go to background stuff. I'm
This is
sweating
my
buckets.
favorite part.
It's so hot in here. Um, let's see. So for all the folks at home, uh, okay, Link says, I like that. I feel like it makes more sense to be attached to lineage, referring to the health time. I like it too. And I think, I feel like the reason that that isn't the case anymore is probably I think part of it is because it's represented in the constitution stats for something like, I think like orcs get a +1 to con, some things do, but and your health scales with con. So I think that's part of it. And I also think that part of it is, it helps define like all the classes are structured in such a way that it makes more sense for a berserker, a barbarian to have more health. Therefore, they have like a higher health die. But in this game, kind of turns it on its head. What was I going to do? Oh, okay. Before we move on, I'm going to post an update in uh, on the BackerKit page. This update talks about backstories, organizations, and it's just Okay, hold on,
Was
I'm
that a thing
publishing
we
it.
can like for points?
It is a thing that you could like for points.
Because I ran out of stuff to do without actually like posting myself.
Awesome. Okay. So if you would like to like for points, let
Yay,
me
points.
let me find the link to it.
Of
Okay.
course, now everyone's gonna go like it, and I'm gonna stay stuck where I am.
Well, okay. So we're gonna run a giveaway,
Ooh,
and the giveaway is going to be done a little bit differently. Anybody who comments their 2 sentence backstory, like write your 2 sentence backstory in the comments, and we're gonna pick from the folks who have commented.
which is what we're gonna do now, right? So we're gonna
Right, which is what we
we're
are
gonna
going
walk
to
through
run
it
through.
together.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Cool, cool,
So
cool.
I'm going to post this in this link in the chat. Feel free to click on said link to go to the community post, like it, reply to it, comment your 2 sentence backstory as we go through, and we will be. You have time. You don't need to rush through this. It's going to take us a little bit to create a character, but we're going to be going through the backstory now. So, backgrounds in Distal, super important as it kind of it sets your character up to like it grounds them in the world and gives you and the GM things to care about, and it has some mechanical implications as well. So let's walk through it. The way that we do backgrounds is that there are 2 sentences with 4 prompts, and we're going to go choose the first one here. So I grew up. Can you roll 1d20 for me?
Funny. I have help. I grew up sickly and weak.
Okay. The amount of times that I land on that is unusually high for some reason. Okay. So you grew up sickly and weak, which would afford you like a +1 to medicine, a +1 religion, and a +1 familial contact, which we'll talk about contacts later. And your the second one, you roll 1d6 and then roll 1d10.
6 and a D10. I'm getting lots of help from a furry creature. Okay. So I grew up sickly and weak, and my days were spent.
This cat.
Yeah. um,
So what'd you roll for the numbers?
I rolled a 10 and a 5. I'm trying to remember what order. So I need the 5 first. All right, 5
Sure.
and 10. So training animals.
Training animals, interesting.
Ooh. That
Okay.
see, so this is why I love this because like my instant reaction is like, ooh, how do these things fit together? And a story starts building in my head, but it really hasn't forced me down any kind of path. Like really, sickly and weak can mean a lot of different things, and yeah, it's fun. Sorry, I get
Yeah,
excited every time we do it.
that's good. I would be given how I would be interested to see what you come up with, just how you interpret it, because these 2 prompts, or actually this the second one, training animals, is definitely very loose, and I would say not even necessarily to me, it doesn't provoke an image other than like training horses is very specifically what I think of every single time.
Yeah, or it could be like Cinderella and like all her little mice friends. in the Disney
Interesting.
movie. Yeah, so
Yeah,
you could go big, like horses or birds. It could be falconry, like
yeah,
hunting or whatever. So like it gives you just enough like banks to the river so that you can start to pull the like figure out, okay, horses is obviously the go-to thing. So, how can I do something different? And that was how I got to the Cinderella thing. It's like, well, if I'm sickly and weak and I'm stuck in my room all the time, then maybe it's mice or little birds, like a Snow White sort of situation or something. So you
yeah,
could go total like badass, like training wolves or something, or you could be Snow White, singing with birds is
yeah.
stuck in your room.
I feel like it can even, so there's a falconer class in the game, but if you're new to Distal, you may not actually notice that until you get to that portion. So the idea that's in your head might be like, "Oh, there's a falconer. Like, what if my character was, you know, training these birds at an aviary, and like that makes sense for my class now." So some of the background decisions might inform the or the class decisions later.
Yeah, and I know people who really like to have solid story decisions behind. Some people don't care, but other people like they want the story. They want whatever decision their character to make to be in line with the mechanics of the game as well. So by giving like getting that teaser going of the story, it can help direct the rest of it.
For sure.
What was that?
That's me raising. I'm one of those people
Oh,
who
okay.
want their yeah, yeah. Uh, let's see. So the next sentence is I became, and then you roll a 1d6. So full disclosure, this particular prompt is more for you to be given a certain set of equipment than it is for the actual prompts here. So there's like an adventurer, a nomad, a sellsword, a hero, a villain, a soldier. We say that you could switch this up if you want. That's fine.
This
Because if you
is
land
the
on
one that I think I always have the hardest time with.
yeah,
It's because it does feel like a very specific archetype.
yeah,
So it but again, and maybe it's something about um the way you think about, it doesn't have to box you in. Like just because you're villain doesn't mean that you're some sort of evil monster. And maybe
right.
villain is just maybe it should be a criminal instead or something.
Well, so the interesting thing about that is that when I think villain, I ask the question, okay, villain to who?
Mm.
Just like hero to who? Like, are you a hero in the eyes of the local populace because you did something that seemed to help them, but realistically, you're kind of a douchebag that's like doing a bunch of skeezy stuff somewhere else. Like it's perception. So when I think villain, I'm like, okay, what would I have done to garner this reputation with a specific set of people?
Okay,
Or I
so
could
that's
like
interesting.
think of it how, or I might think of myself that way, you know, just like, oh,
Right.
I don't feel. I wish I was a different person.
So there's almost like you could look at it from the view of the external perception, you could take it as the internal perception, or you could take it as like the objective reality as well.
Yeah,
So there's kind
no,
of
for
three
sure.
different ways you could take this prompt, which does open it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Like I would
which would you
I
land
now
on?
having had this conversation, I would be less frustrated getting the villain one.
Cool.
I'd probably end up with a
What did
very
you land on?
melodramatic character, but eh,
What'd you roll?
I didn't. I guess what I rolled.
Did you roll the 5?
Yes.
Cool. All right. It's a very relevant conversation.
Yeah. I'm gonna be a brooding 90s goth child.
Interesting.
No, I'm kidding. I hope. I don't know yet. We'll see.
We'll find
Um,
out. Okay,
yeah.
so I became a villain, which villain would give you a medium priced item, 2 low priced items, 2 weapon proficiencies, and for hero, it's actually exactly the same. Uh,
Well, why is that?
hopefully to inform. Okay, this is one of those things where I'm like, what is a hero? What is a villain? This is how I think of things, and now I'm trying to convey that through writing. Um, I don't know. Anyway, uh, you can pick whatever you want. Okay, so I became a villain the day. Roll 1d6 and then roll 1d10
All right.
and tell us what you roll.
So, okay, I rolled a 6 and a 6. So, the day they ran me out of town.
See, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, so I'm thinking one of my animals might have done something bad.
Okay.
That's what that's making me think.
Okay. Well, I have the story in my head now. So I'd be interested to hear what your interpretation of this character is, and then I want to give you mine.
Okay. I think that's what it makes me think of is so being sickly and weak, she would have not she had a lot of time on her hands, to just hang out and wouldn't have gotten to go to school with the other kids and play on the playground and whatever. So I haven't decided what type of animal yet, but I feel like she, got into probably training some sort of, I'm thinking a smaller creature, maybe something from the woods or whatever. And then because of that, something happened and then they blamed her and she got run out of town for it. So maybe like foxes or something cute and mid-sized that then like ate all the chickens in town or
Okay.
something like that,
Yeah.
and then so she's a villain. She's kind of a villain because she's shunned from her hometown, not because she's a bad person. She's just misunderstood.
Okay.
And so are her foxes. There's
All
2
right.
of them.
Uh, so my interpretation, excuse me, with that. My interpretation is that I grew up sickly and weak. It was very difficult for me to get out of bed. I was always doted over. Occasionally, when I was, or after I grew a little bit, uh, maybe I was like sickly and weak when I was a child, and that really, I guess, maybe set me up for failure in the future. I grew up on a maybe like not a farm, but somewhere where they did train animals, and I would like have to do the the stable stuff. It was like tending to the animals, um, and but the person who was mainly training them, maybe they treated those animals very poorly, and I was never strong enough to do something about it. One day, however, uh, I would say that the I finally mustered up the courage to get on the town's prized horse, their prized show animal, and I ran from town. The town was probably relying on that to like make them money, or at the very least, maybe the owner of those horses were like it's just had a lot of influence. So I might be a villain to them, just the people who own the animals. But I took the horse, got on it, ran far, far away, and released it where it wouldn't be abused by its owners. And then I couldn't come back. So
That works too.
anyway,
Wait, but we didn't do I was actually going back through as you were saying all that because there's all the bonus stuff. So like I have at least a familial contact. I'm still working
oh
my way
yeah,
through because that influences the story
so
too.
it will. Let's jump. So let's go to the proficiency scoring at the moment. We'll just walk through this step by step, and
Okay.
then and the contacts take place right after this. So when scoring for proficiencies, the way that proficiencies work in this game is that you have attributes like strength, dexterity, fortitude, intelligence, wisdom. Those are all over there somewhere. Your skills and knowledge, these proficiencies are leveled up independently of that. So in Dungeons and Dragons, just for a direct comparison, if you had like high dexterity, it would modify your stealth. That's not the way it works in this game. Uh, and in this game, the skills are things you do. So you aid someone. Deduction. You deduce information. You engineer something. You influence someone. You do mage work. You perceive something. You stealth. But knowledge are basically modifiers. These are the things that you know. So you can stealth, and if it's like in an urban environment, maybe your knowledge of uh, the really uh, dark alleyways allows you to add your streetwise to that role. Or maybe if you're trying to influence someone who is a devout to the religion, maybe your knowledge of religion can help add a bonus to that role. So that's usually how these rolls are entertained: is that you roll 1d20 and then you add your skill, and if it's relevant, it's modified by your knowledge. Uh, and you've gained a number of these through the background that you've just created. So you've tallied all those up on your sheet, and then we're ready to move on. Unless you're still going.
Yeah, I just need to do the last one. And we out of town. Yes. Okay,
Okay.
you can keep talking to our friends.
Okay. You
I
didn't
will
get
hang up.
any. You didn't do any curios or get any curios, right?
No, boo.
Okay. All right. And those are new. You haven't actually got a chance to play with those yet.
Yeah, those are like the gadgets, right? I think we did
Yeah, I
one
would say more like
time.
keepsakes. Um, just
Yeah. That's kind of.
quirky character items.
What do they do? Do we want to pretend I got one?
Yeah. So let's talk about curios real quick. So one of the mechanics that I love in the One Ring RPG is they have this concept of useful items. This is almost blatantly a rip from that. It is so a useful item is a uh, in Lord of the Rings, like you can imagine just rope being useful, or like a flask or a flagon of ale, drinking that to bolster the spirits, or you can imagine a compass helping orient yourself, and you have a limited amount of these useful items that you'd bring with you on an adventure. The way that we handle it in Distal is that curios are tiny, usually quirky items of personal interest to your character. So, in a lot of games, in Dungeons and Dragons, you'll create a character and then it has like this cool, interesting item that hopefully you share with the party. Sometimes it doesn't come up in the backstory, but curio, you'll be able to design something that you can create like an actual tangible benefit from. So keepsakes allow you to re-roll uh, a relevant check outside of combat. So if I have like a broken spyglass, or like, let's just say like a normal non-broken spyglass, and that's my curio, maybe my perception checks at especially long distances are made with advantage. Essentially, I get to re-roll them. Uh, so it's whatever you want. You create the item. You want to make sure that it has like the correct level of specificity, which I think could be a little bit difficult to pull off. But I
So
do have
it's
some
basically
examples here
when
for you.
when you're creating it, or like, and the DM is having to approve it. Um, it's an item that boosts a singular check in a specific situation as
Right.
opposed to an all the time situation.
Yeah, it's whenever it fits the story.
Right.
So,
But it
here's
has
a
to be a
really
defined specific situation.
uh,
Like necromancy, long distances.
yeah,
Um
we try to give you a good level of specificity, here, but I this isn't like it wouldn't just be that, but that's a good point of feedback because I don't want
so
people to
yeah,
just think that it's that. I
is
wanna make
it
sure that
where does it like weighted in terms of like, all right, so I got like a point to medicine because I'm sickly, right? So I feel like the way they're written, the how do you say it again?
a curio?
Curio, curio. You don't say the
Curio.
S. All right. So curio, um, is like the way it's written. It would make me think like you have a plus to medicine when you're dealing with someone that has like a long-term illness or something, as opposed to on a battlefield with like a gaping wound, which is a different kind of situation than what you'd learned from. So like the medicine point is like has a higher weight because it applies to all situations, where the curio sounds like it applies to a slightly more specific situation, so it's like it's weighted differently. Was that your intention?
So, uh, so I end up clarifying some of the stuff or giving better GM advice in the actual book because this I think this needs a little bit of time to simmer, mostly for the reasons that you're talking about. It's like the specificity can be a little bit difficult to convey, but basically you create an item, and if it's relevant to the story, and you're working with the GM on this, you say like, "Hey, this is what I'm thinking," and they're like, "Okay, that would be it makes sense that you get a bonus in this situation." And that's the end of it. So obviously, you don't want something that you can get a bonus from all the time, and that's the balance that you need to walk. And that's also the reason why it's like a tiny, which is an actual size in the game, item. So it's not like I'm bringing rope. It's not like I'm bringing, uh, like it can't be a weapon, anything like that. Here's an example that I was actually thinking of earlier today, just as it relates to Dungeons and Dragons and the value of this mechanic. If in D&D there's like a child that's probably lost or something, or maybe like I need to get information out of them, and my character says, or rather, I say to the GM like, my character is gonna like take out a coin and like flip it between their fingers, and try to like ease the I don't know, like try to convince the kid to talk to me. The GM's like, okay, cool, roll persuasion. Uh, and it doesn't matter the cool thing that you're doing because you don't tend to manifest advantage unless there's a strong case for it. Whereas in Distal, if I was like, I have this lucky coin, and I'm going to flip it between my fingers and kind of like show it, to the kid and kind of just try to smooth the rough edges, persuade them that way. The GM would say like, okay, are you using your coin? It makes sense because that's your curio. We've given you permission to use that in this situation. Okay, well now I think that example is probably not as strong as I was hoping for. Let's move on.
I think that makes sense. So well, then just that put it a little
Whatever,
more on the
Steph.
DM. What?
Yeah, yeah. So hopefully being able to a lot of these mechanics are and for context too, which we'll get into. It's I have an idea. I'm going to now talk to the GM about it, and there's going to have a mechanical hook that says that this is okay. We just need to figure out how okay it is, or like, yeah, how much permission we're getting in the setting.
Yeah, and I'm always just curious about the intention because, especially like on Dragon Mind with John and stuff like on the podcast, and just when you're going through the subreddits and stuff, there's always that the fun interpersonal part of playing a role-playing game where, the DM has a certain amount of power or the players are being pushy or whatever. So it's always interesting to think about how the dynamic's going to play out and how much does the system help reinforce clear communication so that you don't end up with some sort of weird power struggle. I mean, people are always going to be people, but
Right.
that's why sometimes I dive into those questions probably more than I need to.
Yeah, no, but that's a good point. And there's definitely an intention here that you're finding you're finding some common ground really early on in the game, so that you can kind of feel out your players at the same time as you're building characters, and certainly in session zero, when we have like a team building activity, and it's not just the power dynamic between the GM and the player, it's also uh, the players amongst themselves, and that sort of thing. So hopefully the rules do help and enforce it, because it's going to be important to the experience overall. Let's develop your contact. What is it?
Familial.
Familial. Okay, so we'll roll down here. I guess I'll preface this real quick. So a contact is uh, basically, I'll read this part. Every contact has three main requirements. They can help propel your character's story forward. The contact can provide something of value to your character, and your character can reliably pursue interactions with them.
I
Uh,
forget, and you should put it in here. Do I get to roll the d10 3 times?
yes, and
Okay.
it is stated in here, I think. That was one of the things that got called out. If I didn't fix it here, I definitely fixed it in a later version.
Okay.
Um, so let's go down to the familial contact. So you're going to roll a d10 3 times
That's not it.
to figure out who your contact is.
Ooh, okay. My familial contact is a twin. That
Okay.
is stoic in the face of hardship.
Okay. So they are a twin of yours that is stoic in the face of hardship and can.
Yeah. I well, I'm writing. Got it.
I
So,
cleaned up some of these too in the later version.
and can organize large events.
Cool.
So I
So
have a party planner twin that just life has always been good for. So we don't get along very well.
interesting. Yeah, I mean,
Oh, this is supposed to be someone I like, right? Okay, sorry. I don't know why
no.
I automatically went to not liking them.
Henry says the most stoic parties. That's yeah. I mean, you can. I mean, this is really up to you. You don't have to like them. They're just
Yeah, no, I
the
don't know why
contact.
that's where my head went. Well, I think also thinking of like so um being so if you're like the sickly one in a pair from what I know about twins, I don't even have any siblings, so I have no idea what that relationship is really like other than anecdotally. But uh so I could imagine that if I was the sickly one and they were the healthier one that always had to be tough and everything, um then that could go, but it could go either way. It probably requires a therapy session to figure out why I automatically decided that it meant we didn't get along.
For organized large events, what comes to mind for me is that is not necessarily the party planning thing, though. Yeah, but I wonder if they were just doing everything, like taking care of the family, even.
Right. Yeah, well, it's like
Yeah.
why are they yeah. So are is it a wealthy family? So I can't even I'm having a flash of some TV show I watched at some point, and I don't even have enough to get like a full picture, but I know that there was that kind of situation where there was like the screw up sibling and then the sibling that had it all put together and was throwing all these parties and everything, so it was a family that had more wealth. So I could see it, being that type of thing, or maybe they're just, it's a more modest family and they're helping run charity stuff in town or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, you go a lot of directions.
Yeah. Organized large events seems kind of weak.
What?
I wonder if that's one of the ones that I got rid of. I went through and I cleaned up a lot of things in the later version to make them more exciting. Because all these contacts are supposed to give you some some clear benefits if you were to pursue them. And I feel like organizing large events is one of those ones that's like, can't I really got to jump through some hoops to make this work.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
okay. It's an
when the
alpha.
BBEG can only be defeated by a party.
You're right. Exactly.
A surprise birthday party.
All
That's
right.
how we'll get
Well, let's choose your class.
them. Okay. Ooh. All right. I do love ferrymen so much.
You're not allowed to play that one.
But it's so fun. All right.
So
So
we
animals
have
are potentially involved, but not necessarily.
right.
Is there? Yeah, rangers are the falconer. Okay, falconer ranger. I also find myself. Here's the other reason I like ferryman is. I feel like it's in sharp contrast to any of the other D&D classes. So the ones
Yeah.
where I'm like, oh, a falconer is just a ranger, then that automatically I'm like, boring. Like, actually, I don't know if
Right.
I've ever played a ranger before, but it's like I know that one, and so I kind of write it off. So I think that's part of why I really like the ferryman too, is because it's something that's very new, and I haven't had as much time as I would like to play around with it and die a bunch of times and get to use all the features. What was the
Right.
other one that I would? There was another one I played that was cool that had lots of plants involved.
Oh, that's not that didn't make the alpha packet. You're
Ah,
thinking of the
boo.
dryad. Yeah,
Was
it
it
was
a
a little bit
dryad?
it was really unwielding or
There was a
unwieldy.
lot going on. I needed
Yeah.
many index cards to like organize myself to
Right.
play that one, but
Yeah,
it was
very fun
cool.
concept. It's just yeah, it needs some pruning.
Yeah.
Pruning.
All right. Yeah. See, Henry gets it. I don't want. See, I don't want to pick the obvious one. That's
What's the
boring.
obvious one?
A
Falconer?
falconer.
Let's see. So if you were to play Magister, but you'd have to do it to level 3, you can get a familiar if you went that direction.
So it'd be
Um,
arcane.
yeah, that's up to you. But that's if you want to incorporate animals. I mean, I know you're holding really tightly to the
I
the
know.
raised
It's just
animals thing.
I'm not holding on tightly to it. I'm just aware that it is one of the most definitive factors of that, and also being sick and weekly. I feel like Berserker's like, if I'm going with being influenced by the story, uh, Berserker's not going to be it.
Yeah, well, yeah, unless you, I don't know, like if you go the other direction.
So, I'm interested in your response to the last comment there from I can't say it, Whimsy's Clad, about the ferryman seeming like it needs the GM to set it up.
Oh, here, give me just a moment. I'm just dealing with some stuff and things. Wow.
Trying to remember the details. It's been a while since I got a chance to play. Oh, basically things have to die for
Right.
Whimsy's Class. You just need stuff to die around you. And then I found myself, so we were playing when we were like playtesting this really regularly, like every week, and then I would go play D&D and something would die and I had like this Pavlovian response to like, oh, I get things now, and that didn't that didn't apply to my D&D character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I
Sorry, I
think
had
the
to.
design piece of it, like you do need, I guess, multiple um like things to fight to really be able to start stacking the benefits.
Yeah. Here, I'll answer that. Henry, you're a mod now. So,
Oh, for the
uh,
boinking.
for bonking,
Oh,
what you
sorry.
said is something totally different. Um, so Ferryman really seems like it relies on the GM encounter design, though. So you can create a lot of really cool role play opportunities just by virtue of existing as a ferryman. To me, that's. I mean, you did it with who was your original character? It wasn't Sayame, was it?
Started with an A.
Was it something that I couldn't pronounce?
I think
Like
they
most
all
character
were.
names? Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
Um uh yeah, but for encounter design, usually you have I would say that you have more well, no, no. Yeah, I think that's a good point, Whimsy. Though I feel like you'll be fighting enough to make it relevant pretty often.
Too much stuff done. I'll get there
Okay.
eventually.
All right.
Oh yes.
What do we got? What did you actually pick for class?
Oh, I don't know. I got excited talking about ferrymen again. Anyi.
Anyi. Right.
Anyi.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. No, she was super cool. And it was really fun because she was like, I think this was before you even did the background thing. Although when I rolled the backgrounds, it just like
Fell into
elevated.
place.
Like at first, I was like cranky because I felt like I was going to lose story that I had fallen in love with, but then it just ended up kind of building on it. Um, but yeah, she was cool because she was like a death doula, basically.
Mm,
So yeah. Okay.
yeah.
Anyways, but back to the task
Okay.
at
Well,
hand.
you pick your class.
Back to my
Pick it.
class.
So Whimsy's says, I like the class just has feel bad moments like the auto death mark. So you always gain a death mark when you fall down. Is that what you're talking about?
Or
Because
you
that
start with
happens.
one. I think it's the fact
Oh,
that you
oh, right.
start with one.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But that just added to her story. Cause like I
Yeah.
had this whole thing where like a plague had hit her town, and then like she was the only one, like she stayed till the bitter end, and and she was one of the last ones to die. But then like something, she was Yvain too, so she like planarly shifted to whatever the regular plane is instead of the Yvain plane,
The
and
distal.
you just and and so she had like seen death, which is what brought her to this death doula place. Now I don't know how many stories you can come up with that fit that. I just know that from that one character I had really fallen in love with the story that we created for her. And by we I
Yeah.
mean me.
Right. Okay.
Oracle.
Class
I will say
time.
Oracle.
Cool. Yes. Let's do that. So
Did you say that
oracles.
a while ago? Did you was that like subliminal messaging
No,
that I
no, no,
forgot
no.
about? Okay.
Well, actually, I was talking about oracles for it's like spell archetypes and stuff, but yeah. So an oracle is going to get +1 to your health, which like that's only going to happen a few times in like over the course of your character's life, and yeah, because health is a little bit difficult to come by in this game, and your willpower die is going to be 1d10. And that is the die that you can roll whenever you have willpower, which only takes place in combat. And oracles are very much kind of, I would say, inspired, influenced by the idea of like the three fates.
Oh.
Yeah, because they take these like strands and like yeah, so they have a threads of fate mechanic, which as an action they bind a fateful thread to an ally or enemy that they see, and it's invisible to everybody but you, and you can only have one active at a time at low levels. But and then you can like use those strands to do things, and that's on top of the fact that you're a spellcaster.
Yeah, I took Latin for 5 years and we did all sorts of stuff with like mythology and everything, but nothing can replace the imagery from Disney's Hercules on the three fates.
It's
Or
very
yeah,
good. So is it Hercules or is it Heracles? Which one is
I
the
don't
right one?
remember.
Okay, okay. That was There was a brief discussion about this a few days ago, actually, and then
You'd
a lot
have
of
to
splitting.
ask someone from 2000 years ago. I think we're probably all guessing.
Well, I think Heracles is, to my understanding, the Roman. Oh, wait, no, the Greek version of Hercules, and then Hercules is the Roman pronunciation. But I could be
Probably.
wrong. I was only told this recently.
I took
Anyway,
Latin a long time ago. So
is it the other way around? Okay, Whimsy says it's the other way around, so I'm going to believe Whimsy because he's on the internet. So Heracles. Oh, okay. Well, I think I corrected it there, but Heracles is Greek, which is which is why it's interesting for it to be like, I don't know, mispronounced through that entire Disney movie. So
Oh, there's a
Bloodline.
good comment about the Jester class too.
Let me see.
That one. Yeah.
I like the Jester design. You get a tricksy agility style class without necessarily being railroaded into the shadowy road direction. Yeah, for sure. A lot of fun to play too. They're almost like they're not a spellcaster, but the tricks give you some like versatility, and they're super fun to play. But if you do want to play shadowy rogue, you can definitely just pick up first, and that archetype's always there. Bloodline. What's your bloodline?
Um, who else would you be talking to? Wait, where's the
Yeah.
bloodline?
So they're right below the. Oh, sorry, I skipped a spot. Okay, go to assign attributes.
Is that before or after? Did I scroll down too far?
Go to page 42.
Oh, I didn't scroll down far enough. Okay.
Okay, so some of this might have actually changed since you saw it
So
last.
that I don't need to do anything for the purposes of today. Do I need to write anything down from the actual? Doesn't matter.
From the actual what?
From the Oracle piece. We
For
good?
the purposes of now, no, don't worry about it.
Nah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah.
Cool.
But we should assign your attributes because it works a little bit differently in this game than, uh, well, it works the way that it works in this game.
So what?
When you,
There's 5, and typically there's 6. So what did you asked?
so I axed charisma. Yeah.
Personality. So is that to
Yeah.
give space for your personality to be your personality and not?
Yeah. Yeah. There's some of that involved, and I don't I don't think
Oh well.
attributes like there's multiple ways that you can represent that on on a character. Like, are you charismatic through your strength? Are you uh are you graceful and that's why people gravitate towards you? Realistically, it comes down to the influence skill because we can be influential in many different ways. So it's up to the player how they want to represent that. Whereas a
And it's not
baseline,
a one-to-one like you said before. Like your 5 attributes are over here, and then your skills and knowledge are over here, and
exactly,
they're their own separate thing as opposed to being categories and subcategories.
for sure. Like if you wanted to be stealthy, I would say that there's a few ways that you could represent that too. Like stealthy dexterity would be the traditional way. But what if you're stealthy just because you know how people are going to react to things? What if you're hiding in plain sight? What if you know that, okay, the guard's going to walk by, then I'm just going to walk by after? Like, it's not necessarily being stealthy in the traditional sense, but it's just being smart about when to move and how to convince people or, like, avoid detection. Uh, through wisdom, like, okay, the way that we let me just walk through the attributes. So in strength, for strength, we define it as physical brawn and athleticism. Dexterity is technical precision and agility. Fortitude is internal constitution and wherewithal. Intelligence is your mental sharpness and aptitude. And the wisdom is cultivated perspective and instinct. And to me, that's, I feel like, a little bit more clear a distinction than it is in Dungeons and Dragons. But uh, so we have 5 attributes, and we sometimes refer to them as stats. But your attributes at character creation are given from your lineage. So for okay, but do you want me to highlight that?
True.
Yeah, I saw the reaction. Um, this is pretty good. Uh,
Have you seen those videos? Like, it works. People do it.
yeah,
Yeah.
totally. Um, so one there's like working at a large scale games place, probably a lot of corporate places in general. But we have a little card to swipe on the door before the door unlocks. We walk in, right? It was very, like, we had to make sure that there's nobody following you right in. Like, unless they have a card too, yeah, because people would just do that. They will just be able to walk in because you won't question it, and it's a little bit weird, to, like, say, like, "No, I gotta shut the door." We actually had a culture that developed to be like, "Sorry, I gotta shut the door," and that was fine. Like, people understood that. But if you don't have that corporate culture, then yeah, like, people infiltrate in just intelligent ways, even without ladders. Okay, so your attributes at character creation. For Atlian, you just get a +1 to wisdom. I think that's
Mhm.
right. Okay, cool. So then you're going to pick 2 attributes to increase by 1. What would you
Right.
like? 2 of 5.
Uh, uh, I'm those people. Um, so the recommended are intelligence and wisdom.
Yep.
Do I want to use the big part or the tiny pentagon?
For what?
There's
Oh,
a
okay.
there's a big part and then there's a tiny
Yeah.
pentagon.
So the tiny pentagon is, so you haven't played with this, but attributes are now increased at every level. You get 1 point to put into an attribute at every level. However, when you increase an attribute, it becomes plateaued, which means you
Right.
cannot continue to increase that attribute.
I remember
But then
that.
when you hit a milestone level, 4, 8, 12, the plateaus are wiped, and then you can move up
Okay.
again.
So that's like
It's
just
just
a
a mark to say, like,
checkbox
yeah,
that
it's
you
plateaued.
already did it once. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So I get now I can put it into wisdom if I want to.
Yep.
Yeah. So there's no restrictions because I already got one there.
Nope.
Okay. So see, I like being successful and optimizing. Bad word. But but I also feel like if I was sickly and whatever, then my strength and my dex are definitely low, and fortitude is questionable.
So here's something that you have to account for. All the weapons in the game require either strength, dexterity, or intelligence to wield. And if you don't have at least 1 point in one of those, then it's not gonna go well for your weapons, at least, like your ability to wield weapons. They'll be untrained.
Okay. The last comment in the chat is distracting me. My guess is I'm sorry, but Anyways, I don't know if this is something that we want to. Can't tell if it's something we want to call attention
Nope,
to.
I don't.
All right.
Nope.
So
Got to pay extra for me to answer those kinds of questions.
relationship advice, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Um. So basically, if I don't have strength or dex, I can't wield a weapon with any kind of
Strength, dex, or intelligence.
or intelligence. Right, right. I can be smart. I was gonna put one in intelligence. So I'll definitely put one in intelligence, and then it's just yeah. It's just do I want to stack wisdom? And now I don't get a companion, right? Just because I want one.
No,
Okay.
you don't. Sorry.
It's so good. Um. All right. I'll stack wisdom and just see how it goes.
Cool.
I don't know if I'll actually get to play this character, so I won't worry about the min maxing.
Yeah, don't worry about it. Okay, so one other thing. There's a lot of customization in this game, and we've been talking more than we've been actually playing, moving through this process. I swear it doesn't take this long normally. But can you pick a bloodline?
Okay.
Um, so a bloodline ability is unique to your lineage. You pick one of three options, and it gives you a little bit of additional flavor. If you had three different people, or probably many more, create the same lineage and class, you'd still end up with a whole bunch of different characters. And that was one of those things that I wanted to make sure that you could get away with in this game. So even if you really like Atlian, want to play it multiple times, you can find ways to make adjustments so that it would feel very different the next time you played it. Okay, I don't like that face. What do you?
Because story wise, all right, I'm building story wise rather than. I am always drawn to doing damage. Does I'm heavy handed in life and in game. So I have a hard time picking the option that is more supporty or nuanced or whatever. But I feel like Siren Song is the one that would fit the character's story better. So I'll go with that.
Cool. So, picking Siren Song, which it's a channeled action, and what channeled means in this game is that you uh, you can't move or else you break the channel. Um, and breaking the channel has some repercussions after the effect ends. But so you have to continue using the same action, which is a part of your turn economy, to maintain the effect. So you also have to stand there and
Oh,
do that. Yeah.
wait. So basically, that means I just have to sit there and sing so I don't get hit?
Um,
That doesn't seem helpful
yes.
to anyone
Well,
but me.
it I don't know. If you're a tank
Uh,
and sitting up front, then you can just sit there and kind of force people to deal with you.
I feel like any
But it
DM would just
also
go to somebody else.
I mean, maybe depends on the circumstances.
I feel like most
Okay.
DMs would just go to someone else. I don't know if I.
So, okay, we don't need to get into balance, but this is one of those rough ones too because your allies are also going to well, I mean, your allies are not going to be able to be willing to attack you, but they're also technically affected by this. See, Malott knows choke hold on. Choke points are a thing. Exactly. Exactly.
That
You just
requires a
stand there.
narrow hallway, right?
Yeah. You just go in the narrow hallway and then you just stand there and then
Just
just sing it.
only get into fights in narrow hallways
Yeah.
and put the sickly person in front.
There so there are benefits just by virtue of if you're going to go down, you're low, you want somebody to attack somebody else, right? So by virtue of singing, the GM's just going to pick a different target.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I'm convinced that
Okay, well that's fine.
Because then I'm
Listen,
tired after.
I don't make the rules.
It makes me sleepy,
Yeah.
and I didn't help my friends.
So
And it's not
fatigue
a guarantee I'm not going to get hit.
is true, but it is an extra statistically.
I'm going to take the
You're
blowfish
doing pretty
one.
good. Okay.
It'll-
So Billow Spine gives you a natural weapon, which allows you to fling spines from your body as a weapon. And one of the cool things that you get from this is that if you didn't want to take like a normal weapon, you wouldn't necessarily have to. So you can use your equipment to you can, I don't know, pick up a different item. Yeah, and if you're poisoned, the base damage actually gets a little higher too. So it's like a fun little trait.
Oh,
All right.
that's fun.
Yeah. And
So if I'm
1d6 pretty
poisoned,
good.
I can poison other people?
What? No. No.
Well,
It
I
just
mean,
increases the damage.
the poison affects other people. It increases the damage they take, right?
Oh, yeah. It increases the damage they take. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but they're not technically poisoned.
Right, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just to be clear.
Not bold
Uh,
poison, just yeah.
all right. So let's go on to okay. So that's basically it for the character creation, aside from one last, probably the most arduous step. I know you had it too easy before, chat. So we're gonna we're gonna make it through this. So now we're just choosing your equipment, and one of the things that you get right off the bat is an adventurer's pack. You're gonna add this to your accounting sheet. This is free for new characters, and and then that's what you're going to use to stow items or holster them. Aside from that, we're going to choose your weapon proficiencies, which are all archetypal. So just to show it off real quick. So Steph, your character has how many weapon proficiencies from their background? You probably have 2, maybe 3.
I managed to not write that down.
Okay, because I think villain has 2.
Villain. Maybe I missed writing down villain stuff. Yeah, I think I did.
Oh, okay.
I think I
Yeah, so
skipped it.
villain has 2. Um, so how that would translate is that you would choose a tag basically to become proficient in. So if you chose short blades, you'd be able to wield daggers, short swords, uh, sickle, and these would all be uh, affected by your proficiency. If you chose mystic, you'd be able to choose or use like a shepherd's crook, ritual sensor in the sickle also. And aside from the proficiencies, you also have to have the required attributes to use the weapons. So if you have a at least 1 intelligence, then you're totally fine to use shepherd's crook, a ritual sensor, sickle, and then a bunch of other stuff. There's so many weapons in the game, but they have different
Oh,
price tags.
wait. How is this organized?
All your low cost stuff is up top.
Low, low. Okay.
Yeah,
Middle,
yeah.
middle. Okay, high,
Yeah,
high.
it used to be that
Cool,
everything
cool.
was kind of like interspersed and organized by attribute, but reorganized it by cost since
So
that's the
it's basically
majority.
it's cost and then melee and then range is the next like choice to make. It's like
Yes.
a choose your own adventure. Or something or a flow chart. I'm not sure. One or the other.
So if you
Isn't
wanted
a flow
to,
chart just a choose your own adventure of corporate America? All right. I don't know.
I mean, you're not wrong. There's also some starting packs if you want just like a quick character creation option. If you have at least 1 intelligence, which you do, and you're a villain, so I know what you get as far as your proficiencies or your um, the items that you can pick. You could start with a spell rod, a wand, heavy cloth armor, and then proficiencies in mystic and short blades. It's just like if you didn't want to choose everything yourself, it's very quick.
Mm.
Just this is a package. It's definitely going to work for you. It's
Oh,
what you need.
that's nice.
Yeah,
That's
that's new
helpful
too.
because sometimes this can get like it. It's one of those places where it's like super cool to have lots of options, and you can get really bogged down. and lost.
Right. It's daunting too. There's just so much to like check against. Do I have
Yeah, and
enough
there's
of
just a
this? Do I have
point
enough
where
of that?
there's only so much you can organize it.
Yeah, this is definitely a part of the game that I feel like I can do better uh, with a little bit of experimentation or exploration.
It also
Uh,
seems like the type of thing that would be easier to do in like a quiz format online, where
for
it
sure.
like, some sort of interactive thing that helps you eliminate the irrelevant options so you're only looking at the stuff that matters.
Yeah. Let's see. Malat says he likes the retail adventure kits. So you get for free the adventurers pack at the start. All of these packs they're where you hold your they're where you store your items, and they also have like different functions associated with them. And this is like the one thing that even if you're not a healer, you can still have some value when it comes to like stabilizing your friends. Um, and then even during downtime, every pack has a purpose. So, example, healer's pack as a minor downtime activity, you heal a party member up to their bloody threshold plus one medicine or one plus medicine. So there's a bunch of stuff like that in this little section, and it kind of just it allows you to. There's enough here that you would want to diversify, like with your party. Like, okay, you should take the adventures pack. You should get, the mountaineer pack. You should take the healers pack. Oh, you're an armor. You should take the armorers pack. That way, we have like all of our bases covered. So there's a little bit of that play in here, but as a default, everybody can also just keep the adventurers pack and then go back to town to heal things up and blah 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 blah.
So under combat proficiencies, I put the thing in the second column.
Thank you, Ian. But yes, yeah. Wait, sorry. Second column.
The proficiency. So like if I want to pick crystal, then the combat proficiency is mystic.
Yes.
Yeah.
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 Cool. Okie dokie. Are you good? Have you picked all
Sure.
of your stuff yet?
Yeah.
Have you picked all of your stuff yet?
I need one more
Are we still
weapon. Do we?
okay?
Or I need a little bit more stuff.
Yeah,
It's not. Do
okay.
we? I could be done
Okay.
for the purposes of the. Actually, I should probably do
Yeah.
it. Mystic support. Why would I want two wands?
You could dual wield.
Oh.
It's like yeah, because they're one handed ambidex weapons, so you can like be a better version of Harry Potter.
Yeah. No, actually. Yeah. The little cheat sheet thing is super helpful.
Cool. All right. So as you can see, uh, lots of different items in this game. Very, very specific, and like intentionally balanced. I don't know if it's all the way there yet, but there's they really cater to different styles of play, and there's a lot of like it's good at this and it'll be better at this, but also worse at this. So we try to create trade-offs for everything, even like the more expensive items. The intention is still to create a trade-off. It's not like, oh, it's a plus one, whatever, whatever. Though there is a crafting optional rules in the game, and you can kind of go that direction if you really want. And that's pretty much, I think we're it with the character creation. Is that right? Okay. There's like a final checks page. And we could talk about some of the stuff once you're ready, but that's on page 60. Yeah. Okay, cool. So if you go down to final checks on page 60, uh, first one is like grab your willpower die. You already have it. It's a D10. Uh, the next thing that we check for is your death marks. Okay, you don't actually need to grab. That's fine. Uh, so the amount of death marks that you have access to at the start is 5 plus your character level, so 6 plus your fortitude, which is 0. So
Okay, and by access you mean that's how many times I can
maximum.
die.
Right.
I
Yeah.
don't want those.
Right.
Those are bad.
Unless you're a ferryman, in which case you want to try to figure out how to ride that line. And then your burdens, and this is kind of I don't think you played with this. It's a new way to interpret just holding items instead of raw weight. We have a bunch of, well, I guess lighter weight rules to deal with that are just a little bit more flexible. But you just need to know your thresholds. So your burden max is whatever your lineage said, which I think is 3. And then your restrained threshold is like burden max plus 2, so it would be 5. And that's loaded up on the account page. Oh, it says character sheet. That's wrong.
3 burdens.
Word. And then spellcaster, which you are.
Are my familiar contacts a burden?
No. Okay, well, that's it. We've created a character, and it only took us 2 hours. No, an hour and some change. An hour and some change. There's a
Yeah,
lot
but
of
it was
talking in
because we were
between.
talking about it, and also,
Right.
and the fun part is the story part, and I like that comes
first, almost,
and that it's like helpful. I don't know. Again, that my favorite part of all of this is just the way that it sets up the I'm big. The way that it sets up the it sets up banks to the river. So because it's so hard to not just be the orphan that I don't know got this wandering to like the cliche D&D story. It's just it's hard to it can be hard to be creative without becoming cliche. And so this gives you just enough to walk that line in a way that feels a little less gimmicky.
Absolutely. All right. Well, we are pretty much good. Gonna pick some winners though for our giveaway. And there's only a few comments down there. So let's pick. Roll let's see. Roll a d6. Do you have a d6?
Talking to me?
Just chilling. Yeah, you.
Yeah, I got a whole box of stuff.
Okay.
5.
Okay. So that would be Incendium.
Hey.
Yeah, it's Ian.
Ian.
Hold on, let's see. Do. Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah, and I think that you should roll it one more time. There's only a few comments down there, which is just slim pickings.
3.
Okay, and Navi. Okay, give me just a moment.
Navi check.
Hold on. I'm trying to get the names correct. Okay. Congratulations. Thank you. Novi. Oh, got it. Okay. Well, thank you, Novi. Congratulations. I will be messaging you and via email, and then Incendium RPGs via email as well. And I'll give you some a code that you will put in the survey, and then it'll update or it'll bump up whatever pledge you've pledged. Word. All right. Wow. I feel exhausted now after
I have that effect on people.
That character creation process. It took us a long time to get to that. So you have an Oracle Atlian who probably may or may not have a name.
See, I didn't even think of the Atlian thing. Maybe I trained fish.
Interesting.
Maybe I'm like a sick and weak Aquaman.
That's really
I don't
unfortunate. That is the worst.
know.
That was
Yeah.
the worst backstory. Okay.
Uh,
Well, thank you, Steph, for hanging out and
yeah.
creating characters with all of us.
Cool.
Good. Yeah. If you want to know what Steph is working on, there's you wanna plug your stuff.
Uh,
I put you on
I
the
well,
spot. Sorry.
so yeah, so a lot of what I do, so the most related thing that I do is sometimes I guest on our mutual friend John's podcast, Dragon Mind, which is uh all about I should know the tagline, but bettering
Your
yourself through gaming
yeah.
and yeah, and so it's focused on really the interpersonal parts of gaming because that's what makes it fun. And then in my regular day-to-day life, my roots are in the martial arts, so I own a martial arts school, and I also I recently wrote a book called with my partner called The Spiral. You can find it at spiraluplife.com, and it's all about how to design a life that is self-sustaining and momentum gaining. And yeah,
Okay.
so
I'll post that in chat. Hopefully I posted it correctly.
yep.
Spiraluplife.com.
Dot com.
Dope. Okay.
Dot com. And I have
Cool.
a podcast called Do Work That Matters with Stephanie Ann, and it's for entrepreneurial teachers. So people that are entrepreneurs or think like entrepreneurs and are looking to help solve problems, and they're not satisfied with the current solutions available. So like what you're doing, where there's a lot of solutions out there and you're not satisfied with them, and you're willing to put it out there and share it with other people.
All right.
Cool.
All right. Well, thank you for hanging out. We're gonna carry on with the rest of our stream and probably be wrapping it up here soon. But
Cool.
I'll catch you later,
Night,
Steph.
y'all.
Word. All right, my friends, my fronds. Are there any last minute questions here? We've been going for 3 hours and 24 minutes, and I'm sweating buckets under this key light. it's it's a problem. Um, but hopefully, this was helpful with Distal. Let's see how we doing. Check out the project real quick. Yeah, pretty dope. Cool. So we're like 11% of the way there. Is that how math works? Yeah, that's how math works. Very nice. The Atlian looks very Rel like. I don't know what that means, Jeffrey Williams, but I'll take it as a compliment because that picture is dope. The art was by Gray Herb, who is he's an artist who has done work on Pathfinder and created a lot of really cool stuff for them. So I'll add this to the stage real quick. And so this is the strategist on screen, another piece that was done by him, and then the Atlian as well. Really dig it. There's a video that talks about the character creation, or rather the concept art process for getting the concept art done, being able to contract out to an artist and kind of like direct them to get you something that works for your style and that sort of thing. So if you're interested in checking that out, you can definitely do that on YouTube. It's around there somewhere. All right. Henry says let's check out the other character prompts. Yeah, we can do that real quick. Boop-a-doop, boop-a-doop, boop-boop. So I'm really digging this StreamYard, by the way. It's pretty Pretty dope. Um, yikes. So that's the streaming software that I'm using. I'm very impressed by it. It took me a little bit to acclimate to, and I'm not sure how I feel about. You definitely have more control with OBS, but this is good. I'm talking about things that are unrelated to my game now. Oh, the stuff that people submitted. Oh, I think it's only yours, Henry. Here, yeah, we can go through that. Give me just a moment. Yeah. Okay, cool. So let's find the update real quick. Da 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 da. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Why is it? This being problematic. Um, Hold on just a moment. Why? Why is this being such a problem? Updates? Where is this update? This update is. There we go. There we go. We got it. Okay, cool. Wicked dope. So, Henry, see, I grew up afraid of humans, and my days were spent studying mostly. I became a sellsword the day I was revealed as a charlatan. Blows up. I picked an elf in the first step, so being afraid of humans might come from the elven group. This character was is part of living in an area with lots of humans, maybe in the fallen Kingsguard regions where some of the humans may have become robbers in order to survive. Makes sense. An experience where this character's elven group became victim of the human robbers might have driven him to shy away from violence and try to find another path in life. So he began to study rigorously without really having the knack for it. Despite his best efforts, he just couldn't become whatever he was studying for, and would end up compensating by posing as an expert. Eventually, he was outed, and he forced and was forced to face the fact that he was a fighter by nature and would have to face his deep set fears. I love that. That's awesome. Good stuff, Henry. So, Novi, I grew up in a burnt down house, and my days were spent running from the law. I became a sellsword the day I narrowly escaped death. Tragedy struck my character's hometown. A section of the town, including where he grew up, burned down. An unfortunate misunderstanding caused the law to blame me for what went wrong. After being arrested, he was to be hung. A friend on the inside who believed in me set me free. My character has been on the run ever since, taking up the sellsword life to support himself. Awesome. I love it. And this is we you don't need all the explanation, but I definitely ask for some of that in the comments. But Incendium RPGs, I grew up full of wild ideas, and my days were spent practicing magic. I became a soldier the day I rescued a trapped monster who hurt the king. A trapped monster who hurt the king. Is this part made up? I'm gonna check my notes. Give me just a moment. I'm checking the the background generator because that is not it's not familiar. I think this was just tacked on here. I became a soldier the day I rescued a trap monster. Um, and then the who hurt the king uh, is tacked on to the end there. Okay, sure, I can dig it. Uh, And let's see, Kitling. I grew up full of wild ideas. And my days were spent gathering information. I became a villain the day something was taken from me. Okay. I'd be interested to know what was taken. All right. That's pretty good. Up to 16th on trending. Yay. Cool. Yeah, hopefully we get it bumped up there more. There's definitely a lot going on right now, and there always is. There's always a bunch of really cool projects up on BackerKit at any given time. But definitely want to be in that top four. Uh, hopefully we get there, but we'll see. Cool. Well, I think that is it for this particular stream. Hopefully, you learned a little bit about Distal and hopefully give it a shot. Uh, that's it. If there are any questions, always feel free to reach out to me on Twitter at @RalPlays or via comments on Distal. I think anybody who's still in chat probably knows where I'm at. Um, but yeah, totally feel free. Ask and then tell your friends to help support the project, and we can try to make it something really special. Thanks very much, folks. We're all signing off.